Chapter 360. After a week, Naruto's clay bombs still didn't improve. The shadows of the trees were scattered in the dense forest, and sporadic sunlight sprinkled on the little flying squirrel's body. The trees in this forest were very tall, and the leaves weren't big, but they covered the sky, so even during the day, it was particularly dim. Under the little flying squirrel was a scorpion-shaped puppet controlled by Sasori, Leech, also known as Hiryu, who was wearing a bamboo hat on his head, and his head was motionless as he looked forward, and suddenly said, "The purpose of ninjutsu is to kill the enemy, because everyone's habits, preferences, and talents are different, so there are different ways to kill the enemy." Naruto raised his head, and his eyes fell on the back of Hiryu's head. Although Sasori didn't mention his name, Naruto understood that Sasori was talking to him. "Sasori-senpai, you mean? I shouldn't practice the clay bombs anymore?" Naruto's perception was not low, and he immediately understood the meaning of Sasori's words. Deidara in the distance was unhappy. "Hey, don't lead my ninja beast astray." Your ninja beast?" Naruto's heart was sick of it, and he said without mercy, "Shut up, human pet." What followed was a war of words. After a round of arguing, Naruto asked Sasori again, "Sasori-senpai, what do you think I should learn?" When the two were quarreling, Sasori was quietly watching from the side until Naruto asked. Sasori said, "That depends on your talent. In short, learn what you are good at. Ninjutsu is just a killing technique, and when practiced to the extreme, it is a technique." Talent. What is his talent? Naruto himself didn't know, but Chakra's nature transformation seemed to be something he could learn as long as he wanted to. He also learned swordsmanship and sealing techniques. He didn't know about genjutsu, but if he wanted to learn it, it shouldn't be difficult for him. It seems to be omnipotent, but thinking about it carefully, none of them are very strong. For example, Chakra's nature transformation, although he knows ice release and is good at it, he didn't meet the requirements to learn the last volume of the secret technique. Young attribute, medical ninjutsu and monstrous strength. He's pretty good at it, but he's definitely not as good as Tsunade. His mastery of the wind attribute should be the best, but it didn't form any attack system. The only characteristic was the storm attack that he learned from Shikaku. Swordsmanship. To be humble, he was probably in the top 5 in Woodleaf. However, he was no match for the Sakuragi sisters. His sealing technique was pretty good, but recently, it seemed like Big Fatty was about to surpass him. What is talent? Naruto was confused, so he asked casually. Dead Ale unexpectedly didn't interrupt. Hearing Naruto's question, he also looked at Scorpion. Scorpion hesitated for a moment, as if he was organizing his words. Then he said, "Talent is something that you can do, but others can't. Or, even if they can do it, they can't compare to you." Suddenly, the little flying squirrel's eyes widened. At this moment, Naruto felt that some things had suddenly become clearer. Dead Ale noticed the little flying squirrel's state. When the little flying squirrel's eyebrows relaxed, he couldn't help but ask, "Have you thought it through?" Naruto opened his mouth, but when the words were about to come out of his mouth, nothing came out. It felt like he knew what he had to do, but he didn't know. The little flying squirrel frowned again. "Wait, let me think about it first." Then, the little flying squirrel sat on Fei Liuhu's back and closed his eyes in contemplation. He could do things that others couldn't. Devour Chakra's attributes. Although this ability was confirmed to be Egi's ability. Egi was in his body, so he could do things that others couldn't. He had Egi, but others didn't. So, what he should do was to devour Chakra's attributes. Devouring Chakra's attributes would make Egi grow. In other words, what he should do was to hatch the egg. In fact, Naruto was also curious about what the egg would hatch. But what about ninjutsu? Techniques were the best techniques to kill enemies. Then, what should his techniques be like? His ice release could kill enemies, his wind release could kill enemies, his yang release could kill enemies, and his sealing technique could also kill enemies. Naruto was confused again. Naruto also thought of something else. He had originally planned to learn Earth Release's gravity-altering ability from 04. So mixed. Mixed meant that he wasn't proficient. Not proficient meant that it wasn't the best technique, so it didn't belong to him. Thinking of this, Naruto thought of the Flying Thunder God technique. Naruto had originally planned to learn the Flying Thunder God technique after the other half of Nine Tails was resurrected and fused with Chakra's Een attribute. Naruto hurriedly shook his head and threw this thought out of his mind. What he needed to think about now was what his technique was. But the problem was, he couldn't find the answer. Naruto felt like he owned all kinds of famous cars of all brands and models. Driving any one of them would be cool, but the problem was that he didn't know which one to drive. Dead Ale muttered to himself, "It's not that hard, right? You know Earth Release. So isn't it perfect for learning Clay Bomb?" Sasori ignored Dedale's words and said, "Haven't you noticed your own talent? Your body will grow bigger when you eat. This isn't something everyone can have." Naruto was stunned, and his thoughts turned from himself to the mouse. The body grows bigger because chakra can't be controlled, Naruto said halfway and suddenly realized, Sasori-sama means, I can control my body to grow bigger and smaller? Sasori asked, why not? Well, if it really works, then the little flying mouse's talent is confirmed. Naruto began to try to control his body. Deidara wanted to complain a few words, but he closed his mouth. Although he wanted the little flying mouse to be the same as him, he also understood the importance of talent for a ninja. 5 minutes later, the fist-sized little flying mouse suddenly began to expand to the size of a watermelon. I seem to have succeeded. As he said that, Naruto increased the use of chakra, causing chakra to resonate with the body's cells. It was a very simple operation, and it didn't even require practice because this was the most basic technique of the monstrous strength. The difference was the reaction of the body's cells. The little flying mouse's cells would increase after resonating with chakra, and this state was indescribable. It should be similar to the Akamichi clan's multiplication technique. Of course, maybe the Akamichi clan's multiplication technique also came from ninja beasts. 1 meter, 2 meters, 4 meters, 8 meters. Naruto used the spiritual network's chakra to pour energy into the little flying mouse's body, and the little flying mouse's body continued to expand. After increasing to 10 meters, there was a creaking sound from under his butt. Naruto looked down, and a red-haired boy was staring at him. Under his butt, the scorpion puppet, Fei Liohu, had been smashed to pieces by his butt. The red-haired boy hugged his shoulders. Can't you jump down from my puppet first? Naruto pretended to be stupid. Who's this handsome red-haired guy? Well, regardless of the compensation, he should first flatter him to calm himself down. If he left a good impression, he might be able to reduce the compensation. Chapter 361. On the second day after the little flying squirrel's innate talent was confirmed, Naruto's spirit body's belly, which looked like it was pregnant, shrank a little. There was also good news, which was that Naruto's wood attribute chakra had also completed its transformation. He wasn't very familiar with it, but at the very least, after infusing the water and earth attributes into a plant with chakra, the plant wouldn't wither. That night, in Blowfish's house, Naruto excitedly summoned Butterfly Shiitake. Butterfly Shiitake's head had already grown. It was still a little tender, but at the very least, it looked like something. The summoned Butterfly Shiitake looked at Naruto in a daze. Naruto contacted Butterfly Shiitake with a fake mental link and said with a smile, "Don't be afraid, it's me." The moment Butterfly Shiitake heard Naruto's voice, it didn't hesitate and turned around to run away. It even abandoned the flower pot under it and jumped out of the ground to run wildly. Of course, it was still caught by Naruto in the end. "Don't be afraid this time, I promise. Your head won't fall off again." Butterfly Shiitake struggled with all its might. Naruto pressed Butterfly Shiitake to the ground and infused the new wood attribute chakra into Butterfly Shiitake's body. Then, Butterfly Shiitake's body began to emit a fluorescent light. Butterfly Shiitake's body went limp and it stopped struggling. It comfortably enjoyed the nourishment of the wood attribute chakra. It turned out that Naruto had indeed succeeded. How is it? I didn't lie to you, right? Butterfly Shitake's head gradually recovered under the nourishment of the wood attribute chakra. However, when the head grew to a certain extent, there was a pop. Butterfly Shitake's head fell off again. For a moment, the house was extremely quiet. After a while, Naruto carefully picked up the mushroom head that had fallen on the ground. Well, since it's already fallen off, I'll just recycle it. As he said that, he put away Butterfly Shitake's head. Then, he placed Butterfly Shitake back into the flower pot and sent it back using the reverse spirit communication technique. Could it be that Butterfly Shitake's head will fall off by itself when it matures? Like a ripe fruit? Thinking of this, Naruto tried again on ordinary plants. It turned out that when Naruto injected chakra into the ordinary plants grew significantly stronger and showed no signs of withering. Then, the mushroom head of the butterfly shiitake mushroom was actually a kind of fruit? Thinking of this, Naruto summoned the butterfly shiitake mushroom again. Butterfly mushroom ran away without hesitation. But with the contract in place, where could it run to? It was quickly caught by Naruto. Don't move. I suspect that your head will fall off on its own once it's cooked. Butterfly Shiongu refused to listen and continued to struggle. Wood attribute chakra was injected into the mushroom's body. The mushroom's body emitted a fluorescent light, and the mushroom's head grew out at a speed visible to the naked eye. Sensing the presence of his head, Butterfly Shiitake calmed down a little. But a minute later, when the head had grown to a certain size, it fell off again with a pop. This time, Naruto didn't stop and continued to inject chakra into the mushroom. The heads of the mushrooms grew out one by one like a hen laying eggs. Then, they fell down with a pitter-patter sound. In a short while, Naruto had harvested 8 mushroom heads. Then, he collected the mushroom heads that fell off with satisfaction, planted the butterfly shiitake mushroom in a flower pot, and sent it back with the reverse spirit communication technique. After harvesting a wave of butterfly shiitake mushroom heads with great medicinal value, Naruto was in a good mood. But it also made him more worried. Now, he was sure that he had learned the wood attribute chakra's nature transformation. It was just that his control was far inferior to the other chakra types that he had learned. But Naruto had a hunch that after the soul power in his stomach was digested, his control of the wood attribute chakra would definitely rise to another level. This was a good thing, but it also made Naruto even more confused. In this way, the things he knew were even more complicated, and he didn't know what he should focus on. That night, Naruto thought for the whole night. Sasori's words echoed in his ears over and over again. Ninjutsu is just a technique to kill the enemy. When practiced to the extreme, it is a technique. Talent is what you can do, others can't do, or even if they can do it, they can't compare to you. Then what was his talent? Devouring chakra's attributes did bring him great convenience, but if it was just to kill the enemy, it seemed that there was no need to learn and practice every type. 9 Llamas Sensei, what do you think my talent is? 9 Tails played dumb and said, your talent? Your talent is very good, you can learn anything. Naruto hesitated and said, but a person's energy is limited after all. Knowing everything but not being good at everything is fine when dealing with ordinary enemies, but when encountering a truly powerful enemy, it's different. 9 Tails didn't say anything. Of course, he knew what Naruto's talent was. Using a clone, he could produce an independent consciousness. The strength of this kind of spiritual power was already deified in his view. It had begun to move towards the spiritual strength of Patriarch Rikudo. In time, if he continued to merge, he might be able to create another Jubi. 9 Llamas Sensei, do you think I shouldn't be obsessed with chakra's nature change? Naruto thought of Nagato. Although Nagato borrowed the ability of Rinnegan, his ninjutsu did not develop in the direction of chakra's nature change. Gedo ninjutsu, Gedo reincarnation, can directly resurrect the dead. This technique should be the use of the life and death authority of this world, directly reversing life and death. Tendo Pain's Shinra Tensei, Bando Tensei, are the pinnacle of gravity and repulsion, respectively, and Chibaku Tensei, Shirato Pain. Naruto couldn't figure it out. After all, Shirato Pain's mechanical armor and rocket launchers don't exist in this world. But to summon from another world, it feels a bit ridiculous. Naruto felt that he had to see it first if he had the chance. Rendo Pain's ability to read memories, heart-level stealth. Nagato hasn't used it on him yet. But Naruto has been on guard. As long as Nagato doesn't catch Fugu and Little Flying Squirrel at the same time, Naruto can use the connection between the two to escape. Animal Path Pain Summoning Jutsu, Demon Path Seal Jutsu that devours chakra, Jigakudo's Soul Devouring and Reincarnation Resurrection. Come to think of it, Pain's ninjutsu is quite mixed. But unlike his mixed ninjutsu, each ability of Nagato's Rikudo Pain is a function. Cooperating with each other, the power is definitely much stronger than 1+1. What about him? How about he also create an army that could divide his abilities? Nagato achieved it through Rinnegan, and he can do it through the spiritual network. Naruto shook his head again. No, this is not the talent that Sasori said. Nagato has already used the old trick, and he's just imitating it again. It's not the jutsu that he's looking for. Nine Tails continued to play dumb and didn't mention Naruto's powerful spiritual force. He said, "It doesn't matter whether you're obsessed with chakra's nature change or not. What matters is why you learn ninjutsu. To kill the enemy, you should specialize in whatever is convenient for killing people." Nine Tails made a lot of sense, but Naruto was still a little confused. He felt that everything was quite convenient. This is awkward. Chapter 362. Land of Lightning, Kumogakure. Outside an intensive care unit, two Yuki people peeked in through the window. In the ward, a young man was lying on the bed, and beside him was a girl who was taking care of him meticulously. The young man was Sarui, whom Naruto had once controlled. The girl was Sarui's neighbor, Karu. Naruto left Sarui's body, and when Sarui woke up again, he couldn't remember anything. Even the common sense of life was completely forgotten. Everything, including speaking and writing, had to be learned from scratch. What happened on the day I fainted? In second last sealed space, the two wooden puppets asked second last. However, second last curled up in the cage and said perfunctorily, "I don't know." The two Yujiunin asked, Killer Bee and Ox Spirit said that they heard your call for help. Second last continued to play dumb and asked, "Is that so? How can you take those idiots' words seriously?" The two of them stared at second last. It was not the first time that she had asked second last. In fact, she had already lost count of how many times she had asked. However, second last's attitude was always so displeased. Since that day, your chakra has weakened, and your body has also become smaller. The two wooden puppets stared at second last and explained. Second last continued to play dumb and said, "It must be because I haven't had any dried fish lately. I've lost so much weight." Second last Yujito ni pursed her lips. The hob second last reminded her of Sarui in the past. She said angrily, "If you don't explain everything clearly, then there will be no more dried fish in the future." Second last remained unmoved and said, "If you don't, so be it. I'd like to have a change of taste." Although second last sounded relaxed, she could tell from the dark blue flames rising from her body that she was not in a good mood. "By the way, why don't you try eating something I don't like? Maybe I won't be able to resist telling you." The two Yujito natives were stunned and subconsciously asked, "What don't you like to eat?" If he could force second last to tell the truth, then it wouldn't be impossible for him to eat something disgusting. However, second last's words almost infuriated her. There were only two words, and they were repeated, "Papa." The two of them were so angry that they were speechless. "You?" Second last yawned sluggishly while the kitten rubbed its paws and changed its position to sleep. The two of them were amused by second last's shameless behavior. Second last behaved shamelessly, just like Sarui in the past. "You're Sarui's elder brother, right? You said that you would help him if he needed it. Now he is lying in the ward. You are the only lead, you. Second last raised her head and opened her eyes to look at the Yujito no longer in the cage. She said impatiently, "The thing he asked me to do is not to tell you what happened, so don't bother me with this question in the future." Glaring at second last with their beautiful eyes, they exclaimed, "You really know?" Second last immediately cut off the mental connection and kicked the two of them out of the sealed space. "I've said everything that needs to be said. If you keep asking, don't even think about using my power again." His attitude was very resolute, causing the two Yujito to choke on their words, making them feel very uncomfortable. However, she could also sense that second last was not joking. Ignoring the two Yujito no matter how indignant they were, second last yawned again in the sealed space. She then laid down lazily. She muttered to herself, "Humans only live for 100 years. If I offend you, I won't be able to eat fish for 100 years, but if I offend that guy, I won't be able to rest in peace in the future." Cats were very realistic animals. Between the two Yujito no longer offend the Nine Tails, she clearly chose not to offend the Nine Tails. In recent days, second last had also discovered that her power was continuously recovering. She thought about the words of the human imp, who said that her power would naturally recover after a period of time. It seemed that the imp was not lying. On the contrary, she didn't take half of the threats of the fool 9 llamas seriously. She was obviously bullshitting when she said that she wouldn't return the power to him if he didn't listen. As for the other half, "I didn't report that imp on the account that we're brothers." Well, it's definitely not because I'm afraid of that fool 9 llamas. Second last's cat ears fluttered and she fell asleep lazily. At the same time, after passing through a large ancient forest, Naruto, Deidara, and Scorpion finally saw the sun. The pattering of the river water sounded softly in their ears, and the sun shone brightly, making the fragrance of the flowers feel warmer. Naruto, also known as the little flying squirrel, is now 8 meters tall with 2 legs on the ground. He doesn't walk like a flying squirrel, but more like a chinchilla. Deidara was sitting on his right shoulder while Scorpion was sitting on his left shoulder. That was Scorpion's request to compensate Naruto for crushing Fei Liuhu. As for Deidara, he crawled up shamelessly. Naruto reluctantly agreed because he had also used Deidara as a substitute. However, Naruto also had his principles, which was that no one could sit on his head. On the left shoulder of the little flying squirrel. Oh no, it should be the giant flying squirrel. Scorpion's red hair was fluttering in the wind. It wasn't very long, and it was furry like a red dandelion. Scorpion's face was very delicate, and it was unknown if he had plastic surgery when he was made into a puppet. Naruto thought maliciously. "Senior Scorpion, I feel that I can already skillfully change my size. Can you teach me how to swallow chakra instead of eating?" Scorpion raised his head and looked at Naruto's huge head beside him. He asked curiously, "Tasting food is a kind of enjoyment. Why do you want to give up this rare pleasure?" "Rare pleasure? It would be fine if it was barbecuing ninja beasts or something. Eating humans. Don't you think it's scary when I eat humans?" Scorpion was slightly stunned. This was the first time he heard a ninja beast say such a thing. In fact, some ninjas with mental misophobia or humanitarianism will strictly order their ninja beasts not to swallow humans. However, that kind of thing is very boring in Scorpion's eyes. The weak are prey to the strong. This is a matter of course. What's the difference between eating and not eating? At least in Scorpion's eyes, there is no difference. He is the one who turned people into puppets. It's not scary, but it's not good to be seen by others. Naruto continued, "Yes, even if you are not afraid, it's not good to scare children, so I want to learn how to swallow chakra to relieve my hunger. If this trick is learned, then in the future, with 9 tails, will there be a shortage of chakra?" Thinking of this, Naruto couldn't help but think, what would 9 tails taste like? Scorpion pondered and explained, "This trick is actually very simple. Chakra is a combination of spiritual force and vitality. Swallowing chakra instead of eating is to decompose chakra into the original spiritual force and vitality." My body. Speaking of this, Scorpion hesitated. Then he skipped this topic and said directly, but your body needs a little modification to establish a core that can decompose chakra. Chapter 363. Establish a core? Is it that core? Naruto thought of the only piece of flesh left in Scorpion's entire body. Naruto's heart trembled, thinking, Scorpion doesn't want to make him into a puppet, does he? What core? Naruto's heart was a little guilty, and he couldn't help but ask with a little lack of confidence. Scorpion replied directly, you need to add a talisman array in your body. With this talisman array, the devoured chakra will automatically be converted into vitality. Talisman array? Naruto is good at this, and he's definitely at the master level. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to establish a spiritual network. Is it easy to learn? Naruto asked pretentiously. Scorpion shook his head and said, you don't need to learn, I will directly bury the seal in your body. Without waiting for Naruto to answer, Deidara said first, no. Scorpion turned his head sideways and looked in the direction of Deidara across Naruto's huge rat head. Deidara said solemnly, how can a ninja's body be handed over to others? Unless you teach him the complete ninjutsu, I can't trust him even if it's you. Deidara's words were not wrong, especially when it comes to things like seals. If you don't trust someone very much, it's impossible to easily let outsiders tamper with your body. Because it may be something that will take your life. Scorpion tilted his head and said uncertainly, but, you mean to let him learn seals? This will take a long time. Deidara shook his head and said, I mean, let him learn clay bombs from me. Only explosions are art, Naruto, I think I can try to learn seals. As soon as Naruto spoke, the two people who were about to quarrel stopped at the same time. Deidara said, I'm not discouraging you. Things like seals can't be learned without some brain capacity. Naruto, Scorpion echoed, although I don't want to stand on his side, but in fact, seals are really not simple. It's very complicated. I have to remember a lot of things. Naruto felt a little amused. His achievements in sealing, not to mention other things, were already unprecedented in the spiritual network and optimization of spiritual communication. Besides, there was also a chakra channel that was built with rune arrays to simulate the human body. He wasn't bragging, but he was definitely a master or even a grandmaster in sealing techniques. Well, let's give it a try first. I think I'm pretty smart. Dead Ale shook his head and said in an extremely pessimistic tone, I think it's more reliable for you to learn the clay bomb from me. Naruto was too lazy to pay attention to Dead Ale. In Dead Ale's mind, only his bombs were number one in the world. He turned to look at Scorpion. Scorpion hesitated for a moment. Well, you can try to learn it first. If you can't learn it, then say you can't learn it. Dead Ale rolled his eyes and fiddled with the clay bomb in his hand. It was a small bird pecking his hand. What's the point of learning sealing techniques? It's just a waste of time. Naruto was enlightened and said with a smirk, you don't believe I can learn it? Then, do you want to make a bet? Deidale's interest was piqued and he said with amusement, bet on what? Naruto smiled with dimples on his mouse face. Bet, if I learn it, you will be my human pet in the future. Deidale's face darkened, and the clay bomb in his hand instantly expanded and turned into a huge eagle. Dead Ale threatened, do you believe that I will let it take you to the sky and blow you up into fireworks? Naruto wasn't scared and he replied firmly, do you dare to bet or not? Just say it, don't say useless things. Dead Ale was a little frantic. I'll bet. If I win, you will be my pet. You are not allowed to talk back to me in the future. Scorpion wasn't afraid of things getting out of hand. He put away the lazy look on his face and solemnly promised Ming, just for this bet, I will definitely teach you. Naruto and Scorpion had reached a united front. Dead Ale was so angry that he waved his hand, and the clay bomb turned into a giant eagle and rose into the air. Dead Ale made a seal with one hand and shouted, Ha! Boom! The giant eagle exploded, and the ground trembled. Dead Ale was so angry that he couldn't control himself. In the spiritual network, Naruto contacted Big Fatty and said, "Big Fatty, how long did it take you to learn the basic knowledge of sealing techniques?" Big Fatty thought for a moment and replied, 3 days if it was short, 1 week if it was long. At that time, you gave me a week's task. Naruto nodded. Oh, so. Then if you were stupid for 2 weeks, would you have learned it? Big Fatty said affirmatively, if you were as stupid as Little Gunny, you would have learned it in 8 or 9 days. Little Gunny took 8 or 9 days. It seems like that's the case. While they were talking, the 4 ninjas of the Mist Village launched a bombardment at Naruto. It was a big net, and the 4 ninjas each pulled a corner and aimed at Naruto. Was it Deidale's explosion that attracted them? Or was it an ambush? The giant net was about to fall on him. At this time, Sasori raised his hand and connected chakra to the net, and then with a sweep of his hand, he threw the net and the people directly. At this time, the leader of the ninjas said, "Who are you? This is the territory of the Mist Village. Do you want to be reasonable when you can't win?" Unfortunately, Sasori wasn't a reasonable person. Sasori didn't talk nonsense. He opened the scroll in his hand and directly summoned the Kazekage's puppet. The third wind shadow puppet made its move, and pitch-black iron sand shrouded the group of people. One of the 4 ninjas tried to use chakra to defend himself, but his body was penetrated by the iron sand and turned into a sieve. Magnet release. Iron sand attack. Those who escaped were stunned and couldn't believe it. This is Magnet Release Kekiai Genkai? Is it the Kazekage-sama? Sama was a title for the strong. The Kazekage's puppet caused a strong visual impact to the 3 ninjas. Sasori still didn't pay attention, and the iron sand gathered into iron needles and scattered. Wait. Stop. You want to provoke a war between the 2 villages. Before he could say anything, the iron needles had already penetrated his body. From the beginning to the end, the ninjas of the Mist Village didn't have the power to fight back. With just the few of you, you can't cause a ninja war. Sasori said coolly. Then he raised his hand and the iron sand wrapped around one of the ninjas. Let me show you how to devour chakra to eat. Sasori grabbed the ninja's head, and then the ninja's body withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. For a time, the blood mist rose, and the scene wasn't much better than eating people. Wait. Sasori eats people? The blood mist covered Sasori's body and eventually drilled into his heart. Deidara looked at it and sighed. I don't know why I thought of that guy Haiden. Sasori looked at him and said, Don't compare me with that evil follower. Naruto said, Then, can you eat living people directly? If you can, then can't Sasori replenish his energy while killing the enemy? Sasori shook his head and said, Eating living people is no problem, but eating is a very troublesome thing. It takes 10 seconds to prepare, and during this time, you can't be disturbed, so, just in case, it's better to kill the enemy first, and it's more merciful. Chapter 364. 2 waves of mist ninjas were killed in the land of water. The mission can no longer be carried out in secret. Deidara sent the information through the Akatsuki's ring. Yahiko wanted to go back to the village and suspend the mission. Therefore, the 3 of them strolled out and strolled back. The whole process was equivalent to going out for a walk. What's even more ridiculous is that Sasori inexplicably lost a powerful puppet, Philyu. On the way back, Sasori sat cross-legged on the shoulder of the giant flying squirrel and repaired the broken Philyu. Naruto glanced at Sasori from time to time while rushing. He secretly watched how Sasori repaired the puppet. But soon he found that there was nothing to learn. In the end, Sasori couldn't help but say, that, I don't think it's necessary to repair it. Scorpion's hand paused for a moment before he defended Fei Liuhu. Fei Liuhu is still very strong. Naruto didn't care and said, Forget it. It'll break if you sit on it. Sasori didn't know if he should say MMP or not. The 4-meter-high steel building in the Land of Rain was reduced to 2 meters by this pig. It's already good that his Philyu didn't break into pieces. Naruto continued, Also, your Filyu is also ugly. Not to mention its humpback, its face is also ugly. Sasori, Filyu is a puppet made to kill people. What's the use of being beautiful? Besides, the humpback is to make more space for him to hide inside. Sasori's chest was even tighter. But he can't lose his temper with a mouse who doesn't know what art is. Sasori replied, "How's your sealing technique? Do you want me to ask you a few questions?" It's only been 3 days since Naruto received the sealing technique education. According to Naruto's calculation, it's not yet time for him to learn it. Sasori replied, "That. I haven't learned it yet. There are a lot of things that I don't understand." Sasori shouted, "Then why don't you learn it?" Well, it seems that Sasori is angry from embarrassment. But, did he really have to go that far? Wasn't he just mocking Fei Liuhu's appearance? Fei Liuhu was really ugly, wasn't he? Naruto stopped talking, and Dead Ale said, "Give up. You can't learn it. Just be my pet and learn the clay bomb from me." Pet. Every time he heard this term, Naruto felt uncomfortable. He shouted back, "Shut up. Human pet." The two of them began to quarrel. However, Naruto quickly shut his mouth. Because 2 customers suddenly came to the shop. Naruto's spirit body returned to the blowfish's body. "Blowfish. Go and flush the toilet. The customer is in a hurry to go to the toilet." Naruto woke up from his nap. When he raised his head, he was shocked. There were 2 people wearing Akatsuki's clothes. They were wearing bamboo hats, and their raincoats were still dripping wet with rainwater. Who was it? Haiden and Kakuzu? After waiting for several weeks, this guy finally came? Naruto was very excited. At this time, one of them raised his hand and took off his bamboo hat. Although I don't hate the rain, Tion's mood is also affected by the rain. After the bamboo hat was taken off, the face revealed was somewhat different from what Naruto had imagined. It was not the Angle or Haiden, but Kison Ghost Shark. Fuck. Kison Ghost Shark also went to the brothel? Then the person beside him was not Itachi, right? Naruto looked over. That person was still wearing his bamboo hat and had no intention of taking it off. Then, was it Itachi or not? Naruto became curious. He contacted Sasuke through the spiritual network. Since Sasuke bound his identity card, he never took the initiative to look for Naruto. Naruto began to tease Sasuke from time to time, but Sasuke always ignored him. After a few times, Naruto was too lazy to chat with Sasuke. "Sasuke, I saw your brother. Can you guess where I saw it?" Usually, Sasuke did not reply. His reply was either N or Ah. Today, when he heard the news about Itachi, he finally made an exception and said a few more words. "Where did you see him?" Naruto replied in shock. "In J Courtyard." "Ah." In Orochimaru's base. Sasuke was petrified. After reacting, he replied coolly, "Oh." Then he suddenly thought of something. "Since you saw him in J Courtyard, then you were also there. You can rest assured that I won't tell Hinata." This time it was Naruto's turn to be stunned. He quickly explained, "Don't talk nonsense. I went there to collect information." Sasuke replied coolly, "As far as I know, Jiraiya often goes to that kind of place to collect information." Fuck. Why does it feel like the more I explain, the worse it gets? Sasuke replied coolly, "Okay, don't bother me. If you bother me again, I'll tell Hinata that you were in J Courtyard." Sasuke's mouth. He doesn't believe what I said. Does he think I'm joking? Although Naruto has done this kind of thing in the past, this time he's telling the truth. Naruto sent the scene in front of him to Sasuke. "Do you think this person is your brother?" When Sasuke saw the person wearing a bamboo hat and a straw raincoat, although the bamboo hat was low and he could not see the person's face, his intuition told him that the person in front of him was the person he had been thinking about day and night. But he still stubbornly said, he won't go to that kind of place. Naruto replied, "But he's there." Naruto shifted his gaze and sent a girl with heavy makeup or a pretty girl from a humble family into the picture. At this time, Sister Yao shouted, "Blowfish! What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and clear the sewer." Naruto still wanted to see the person's face, but work was necessary. But at this time, Kisame said, Is the sewer blocked? Then I'll do it myself. Move aside, I'm in a hurry." Saying so, he was about to walk into the toilet. Sister Yao quickly apologized. "How can we let our honorable guest do this kind of thing? Let our people do it." Kisame replied, "I'm not a guest, I just want to use the toilet." Sister Yao blocked the toilet door. "Everyone who comes here is a guest, you must be tired after a day, let the girls serve you well." Kisame was in a hurry, he just wanted to use the toilet. Fortunately, Naruto pulled Sister Yao away, and Kisame rushed into the toilet. Sister Yao was still a little dissatisfied. "Why are you pulling me away? If he's not a guest, just kick him out." Mothef *K, kicking Kisame out. This is no different from suicide. Shaking off Naruto's pull, Sister Yao rushed toward the person suspected to be Uchiha Itachi. "Then, what kind of service does this guest want? We have all kinds of girls here." The person suspected to be Itachi raised his head, and the low slanted bamboo hat lifted, revealing half of his face. He was very young, about 17 or 18 years old, a young man in his prime. "I'm here to accompany that person to the toilet." Sister Yao glared at him. "So, you're not going to order anything?" The boy nodded his head affirmatively. Sister Yao said, "How can we not order any girls here? Why don't you take a look first?" Then, Sister Yao shouted, "Girls, whoever can make this guest stay will be heavily rewarded today." Then, with a whoosh, a fragrant wind blew, and a group of butterflies swarmed over. This person was indeed Itachi. Naruto was very curious whether these girls could make Itachi stay or not. After all, the fragrance of these girls was very tempting. Chapter 365. However, to Naruto's disappointment, Itachi's will was surprisingly firm. He wasn't affected by the drug in the fragrance. After Kisame came out of the toilet, the two left. "Girls, wait until I finish the task, I'll come to see you." This ambiguous and flirtatious reply was made by the ghost mermaid. Kisame was more than 2 meters tall, with a strong physique, and his physique alone attracted countless crazy bees and butterflies. Naruto stood in the corner and watched the two leave. The first time he saw Itachi, it was half a year ago. At that time, he and Jiraiya went out of the village to find Tsunade. Then he met these two guys in the land of Earth. 9 Llamas. "Sensei, do you think I can defeat these two people now?" Naruto connected the spiritual link. 9 Tails said suspiciously, "That guy from the Uchiha clan? It shouldn't be a problem, right?" 9 Tails didn't say anything. With Naruto's current spiritual strength, Naruto should be able to ignore the other party's genjutsu without using Manjikyu Sharingan. But if he uses Manjikyu Sharingan, it will be difficult. The eyes of the Uchiha clan are the most disgusting thing in the world in 9 Tails' heart. No, now there is also a Rinnegan. Thinking of Rinnegan, 9 Tails felt a sense of crisis. If Naruto encounters such an enemy in the future, then Naruto's current strength is really not enough. Or, give Naruto some pointers? Let Naruto change to genjutsu? 9 Tails sniffed, and in the spiritual link, Naruto also shared the smell with him. He couldn't help but wonder, what's so fragrant? The fragrance was left by the girls. It was the smell of perfume. Naruto came back to his senses and said perfunctorily, "It's nothing, I'm in the place where perfume is sold, that. I have something to do, so I'll cut off the connection first." Beep. Naruto cut off his mental link with 9 Tails. He didn't want 9 Tails to know where he worked. With 9 Tails' big mouth, who knew what kind of rumors would spread? After cutting off the spiritual link, Naruto fell into deep thought. Was he a match for Itachi now? Naruto was very clear in his heart that there was only one word to describe the situation: suspense. Uchiha Itachi's Manjikyu Sharingan ability. Aside from Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi, he also had a third Sharingan, Shusui's Koto Amatsukami. That thing would be useless if it was hit. Thinking of this, Naruto remembered that he also seemed to have such an eye. It was Shusui's eye that he snatched from Danzo. He had been keeping it on Danzo's arm, but he had never thought of how to use it. When Naruto found a corner to take a nap, Orochimaru took the initiative to contact him in the spiritual network. "Sasuke has seen Itachi?" Naruto asked curiously. "What? Is your master-disciple relationship so good now? Are you starting to care about his physical and mental growth?" Orochimaru replied, "My thoughts just returned from Yakushi Kabuto when I saw that kid desperately slashing at the cliff. I think only that guy can affect him so much." This reasoning, Naruto gave him full marks. "I guess so. I met Itachi when I was collecting information, so I took a screenshot and sent it to him." Orochimaru replied, "Oh, as expected." The two fell into silence. Naruto felt that Orochimaru was acting strange today, so he took the initiative to ask, "Are you looking for me to ask about Sasuke?" Orochimaru replied, "Well, not really. I'm just asking casually. What I want to say is that I've taught Yakushi Kabuto all the technology related to androids. Yakushi Kabuto learned it well. The cloned creatures that he has cultivated in the past few days are not much different from the original creatures. Cloning technology has finally broken through? This is really good news. This means that he can cultivate living arms for Gunny and the others. At the same time, it also means that his immortality technique is one step closer to being realized." Naruto was multitasking. At the same time, he contacted Yakushi Kabuto. "Has the cloning technology matured?" Yakushi Kabuto was observing the cloned fish in the culture tank. He replied, "It is indeed close to maturing. Orochimaru's technology is amazing, but there is still a problem. The cloned creatures can't live longer than the original creatures. The cloned creatures can't live longer than the original creatures. The limit of lifespan should be God's forbidden zone. It's not incomprehensible that it can't be broken through. After all, even the first Naruto and Rikudo Sennin have reached the end of their lifespan." Naruto pondered for a moment. "Let's cultivate living arms for Gunny and the others first. As for the lifespan of the cloned creatures, if it can't be broken through in a short time, let's put it aside for now." After hanging up the call with Yakushi Kabuto, Naruto said to Orochimaru, "Then the next thing is the curse seal." Orochimaru said, "Curse seal? Are you planning to let me teach that guy Kabuto?" Naruto thought for a moment. "Well, teach it to him. By the way, I'll let another guy listen in. I've been very busy recently, so I don't have the time to learn." Orochimaru speculated, "You didn't sneak into the rain country, did you?" Naruto wasn't too surprised. He just told Orochimaru about his encounter with Itachi. Plus, Orochimaru was originally a member of the Akatsuki, so it wasn't too difficult to guess. "Well, you know about it?" Orochimaru said kindly, "Then you have to be careful. There are several troublesome existences in the rain country." "Well, I can tell you some information. I don't know if you want to trade?" Naruto replied, "Who is it about?" "If it's about Rikudo Pain, I don't need it. I know a guy from the Rendo who can read memories. If I'm touched by that guy, I'll most likely be exposed." This time, it was Orochimaru's turn to be surprised. "How do you know? Have you already met that guy?" Naruto pretended to be mysterious and said, "Don't worry about that. I'm curious, what do you want from me?" Orochimaru sighed helplessly, "You're really an unpredictable guy. I originally wanted to use this information to exchange the soul of my other hand in advance. You know, Sandaime-sama's technique has been bothering me for a long time. Now it's difficult for me to even sleep. If this continues, this body won't last long. Exchange the soul in advance. If I exchange the soul in advance, there will be nothing to restrict Orochimaru. So, is Orochimaru trustworthy?" "No, there is no trust in Orochimaru at all. There is only a transaction between them. Naruto said helplessly. Then there's no other way. The only interest that can be maintained between us is your hand. I hope you can understand. Orochimaru quickly replied, No, it's not just one hand. I'm very interested in your idea of immortality. We can study it together. Naruto directly said, You know, don't you? The lifespan of a clone can't live as long as the original body, so you transferred your idea to the study of a technique that can take over other people's bodies, using other people as a vessel, not a clone as a vessel. Orochimaru was stunned. Kabuto told you? Naruto ignored Orochimaru's question and continued, From the beginning, you knew that it was impossible to achieve immortality by relying on cloning, because this is the old road you have taken, but you didn't say, Are you going to laugh at me? Or are you expecting me to create a miracle and break through the problem that you can't break through? I hope it's the latter, but the former is more likely. If that's the case, it's impossible for us to maintain our fragile business relationship without your hand. Orochimaru's underground base. The pain from his hand made Orochimaru's expression distorted. He hasn't had a good sleep for a long time. Every day he rests is controlled by drugs. Recently, this body's resistance to drugs is getting higher and higher. He believes that soon even drugs won't be able to make him sleep. So he must get back the soul of his other hand before that happens. Orochimaru gritted his teeth and replied, You are too careless. Your secret base is in the snow country, right? Hearing this sentence, Naruto's face darkened, and killing intent surged in his eyes. Is this a threat? Naruto was a little surprised that Orochimaru could find the snow country. After all, there are various barriers in the Great Snow Mountain to prevent detection, so Naruto dared to let Orochimaru visit the Great Snow Mountain. But he didn't expect that Orochimaru would find it. The last thing I accept is threats. I have to say, you made a wrong move. You should have some patience and wait a little longer. Orochimaru replied, Your base in the snow country is 1. Second, you are now sneaking into the rain country. Third, you are still alive. I will use these 3 pieces of information to exchange for my other arm. Do you want to trade? Rest assured, after the exchange, we can still trade normally. I will teach you the knowledge of the curse seal according to our agreement. Chapter 366. To trade or not to trade. Naruto tapped his fingers on his thigh. Making a deal with Orochimaru was a risky move, but it was something that had to be done sooner or later. The progress of cloning technology had reached a bottleneck, and it would take too long to make a breakthrough with Yakushi's pocket alone. So, after Naruto met Sasuke and learned that Orochimaru was nearby, he thought of making a deal. Of course, there was another point. He wanted to pull Sasuke directly to his side, but he didn't expect that Sasuke would choose Orochimaru. His liver hurt. Naruto cursed inwardly. Sasuke was definitely a masochist. Since the content of the deal has been decided, it won't change. This is my principle. Naruto replied indifferently. Orochimaru asked incredulously, Even if I pass the news of you to Woodleaf and the Akatsuki, you won't change your mind? Naruto said indifferently, You can try, but so what if Woodleaf knows that I'm alive? Send someone to kill me? Do you think I'm afraid? As for the Akatsuki, even if you tell them, they may not be able to find me. Even if they can find me, I have the ability to leave here. So, your threat to me has no effect. On the contrary to you, if you piss me off and destroy the soul in your hand, the damage to you will be irreparable. Orochimaru stopped talking, and suddenly laughed after a while. Don't be nervous, I'm just joking to ease the atmosphere. Joke. Unfortunately, this joke wasn't funny at all. At the very least, it proved that if possible, Orochimaru would bite back. Naruto separated part of his mind and contacted Dabi. Locate the location of Sasuke and Orochimaru. After receiving the order, Dabi pulled up the records with 5-star status. However, there was no exact location information on the map. It should be blocked by a barrier. So, Dabi began to use the historical records. He found the place where Sasuke and Orochimaru last disappeared. In the land of rice. Looking further ahead, there were records of the land of fire and the land of water. All of them suddenly disappeared at the same place. Defei sent the information he had sorted out to Naruto. Seeing this information, Naruto fell into deep thought. Obviously, in order to prevent being tracked, Orochimaru used a space ninjutsu similar to reverse summoning every time he returned to the underground base. Otherwise, Orochimaru wouldn't have been able to escape from Woodleaf and Akatsuki's pursuit. Interesting. Naruto was multitasking. While reading the information from Dabi, he said to Orochimaru, "Well, since it's a joke, then, tell me, why are you so sure that my base is in the snow country?" Orochi replied, "About that. Are you asking if I'm right?" "Guess?" Naruto felt that communicating with Orochimaru was tiring. Was this guy some kind of genius? Or was it just a perfunctory reason? "You're right. After all, there is indeed a small base in the snow country." Then can you tell me how you guessed it?" "Even if it's just a guess, there has to be some evidence, right?" Orochimaru replied, "Not long ago, I heard that there is a magical cinema in the snow country that allows people to immerse themselves in a movie. Coincidentally, the small card you gave me allowed me to watch that kind of movie, and the name of the movie matches the rumors I heard. F***CK. I didn't expect this to be the loophole." Naruto's mouth twitched. If he had known earlier, he would have banned Orochimaru's card authority. By the way, the learning area also has the Hyuga clan's taijutsu contributed by Hinata. Should I remove Orochimaru's authority? Originally, Naruto intended to develop Orochimaru as a potential customer. While hesitating, Naruto opened the Points Exchange Mall. He found that there were 2 more books in the Points Exchange Mall, Kekkei Genkai Genetic Modification Technique, and Kekkei Genkai Cell Transplantation Technique. Signed, A Melancholy Snake. Puff. A Melancholy Snake. Was this name given by Orochimaru? Naruto was amused by Orochimaru. Kekkei Genkai Genetic Modification Technique is worth 800 points. Kekkei Genkai Cell Transplantation Technique is worth 500 points. Naruto looked at the signatures of the reviewer. It was Gurney and Kabuto. In other words, these 2 books were supervised by Gurney and approved by Kabuto after their value was reviewed by Kabuto. In the points exchange record, Kabuto bought them once. It seemed that Orochimaru had been integrated into his trading system. Naruto multitasked and said to Defei, "Send me a record of Orochimaru's points consumption." Then, a list appeared in front of Naruto's eyes. Purchase of The Last Swordswoman, 10 points. Additional 200 points. Purchase of Wind and Cloud Princess 1, 10 points. Additional 100 points. Purchase of Wind and Cloud Princess 2, 10 points. Additional 100 points. Purchase of Chakra, 10 square meters. Clone rental. What a tycoon. Orochimaru actually gave him a reward. However, Naruto saw a punishment as he looked down. Malicious exploration of the spiritual network system. 500 points. Note. Minor incident. No damage caused. 1 warning. Orochimaru was indeed a restless guy. Well, since it's a joke, I'll let it go this time. Don't worry, after you teach Kabuto the curse seal, I'll return your hand to you. After hanging up the call with Orochimaru, Naruto's heart couldn't relax. If he returned Orochimaru's hand, would Orochimaru still honestly trade with him? The answer was no. Orochimaru was someone who could even kill his own sensei. However, why would such an unruly guy trade with Danzo? Could it be that Danzo used Koto Amatsukami on Orochimaru? Thinking of this, Naruto's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Logically speaking, it was really possible. First of all, Danzo was a very suspicious person. It was very suspicious that he could let Orochimaru operate on him without worry. Second, even if there was a reason why Orochimaru didn't kill Naruto Sandaime, it wasn't sufficient. But if it was Koto Amatsukami, everything would make sense. Naruto's brain quickly deduced, and the frequency of his fingers tapping on his thigh became even faster. But what about before Danzo transplanted Koto Amatsukami? Who transplanted Koto Amatsukami? Orochimaru? Or someone else? This wasn't the main point. Danzo was the existence who controlled the root, and he didn't lack trustworthy subordinates. Right. Why not summon Danzo and ask him? Naruto slapped his head. He had been smart all his life, but now he was stupid. Naruto found Gorny on the spiritual network. Gorny, help me revive someone. As soon as Gorny heard that Naruto was looking for her, she happily asked, I just heard Kabuto say that he has already grown our limbs, is that true? Kabuto, this big mouth. Originally, Naruto wanted to give the three girls a surprise. It's true, but why did Kabuto tell you everything? Gorny said proudly, I'm a natural beauty, I just needed to throw a wink at that silly boy. Naruto. Chapter 367. On the first floor of the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute, where Naruto once resurrected Haku. Naruto controlled Gunny's body and used the blood extracted from Danzo's arm as a medium to resurrect Danzo. However, he never expected that the one who came out was first Naruto. Naruto checked the scroll that sealed first Naruto's soul and found that it had disappeared. Obviously, it had been summoned away by the Edo Tensei. Naruto looked at first Naruto, whose eyes were closed. Now that the Edo Tensei was successful, all that was left was to activate it. Should he activate first Naruto? Naruto hesitated. After all, the one in front of him was the god of ninja. However, it seemed that chatting with the god of ninja would be a good experience. With that thought in mind, Naruto controlled Gunny and snapped his fingers. Snap! The seal was triggered, and first Naruto opened his eyes. After a brief hesitation, first Naruto looked at himself. He clenched his fists and then loosened them. What a weak body. It seems that I was summoned by Tobirama's technique again. Who summoned me this time? Little girl. First Naruto looked at Gunny. To be honest, Gunny's appearance was very fresh and refined. His chin was a bit sharp, and he had a standard oval face. His facial features were beautiful and charming. He had the face of a vixen that could be easily seduced at a glance. His body was curvy, and the only flaw was that he didn't have real legs. First Naruto's gaze fell on Gunny's body, and he noticed that Gunny's legs were fake at a glance. He raised his eyebrows and a trace of pity appeared on his face. Little girl. Did you summon me? Little girl, of course, called Gunny. However, the one who wanted to speak was Naruto. Naruto originally wanted to use Gunny's body to directly communicate with first Naruto, but he felt that it was a bit awkward. He wasn't as open-minded as Orochimaru to be able to ignore gender. With a thought, he used Guru as a medium to project his own appearance. To be precise, it's me, the First Lord Naruto. Naruto's 3D projection was projected in front of the first Naruto. The first Naruto looked at the Naruto that was formed by interweaving rays of light with some surprise. Your main body isn't here? Was this a technique from the future? It looks interesting. Naruto bowed slightly and replied, Due to some matters, my main body is unable to personally come. Please forgive me, first generation Naruto. When dealing with important figures, basic courtesy was still necessary. What was courtesy? It was all about face. Naruto's respectful attitude did indeed leave a good impression on the first Naruto. He smiled and said, You're much more likable than that guy Orochimaru. So, how should I address you? Naruto didn't hide anything and introduced himself. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I used to be a villager of Woodleaf, but not anymore. The first Naruto suddenly realized, Oh, so you're a child of Woodleaf. Then, can you tell me why you left the village? Naruto casually replied, Because I wasn't happy in the village. This was also the truth. Following that, Naruto added, I'm human pillar force. My story is a bit long. The first Naruto looked around. Is there a chair? If you're not in a hurry, we can talk about it slowly. The first Naruto appeared to be very approachable and didn't put on any airs. Naruto's impression of the first Naruto was quite good. With a thought, he used chakra's storage in the snowy mountain. Following that, a stone table and 3 stone chairs emerged from the ground. Indeed, there's no hurry. If first Naruto-sama is interested, I can tell you my story. The first Naruto and Naruto sat down. Naruto was just a projection, so it didn't make any difference to him whether he sat or not. However, he still sat down. To be precise, he changed the posture of the projection and moved his position. I'm Nine-Tails' human pillar force. If I want to tell you the story, I should go back a bit. Naruto organized his words and told the story from when Nine-Tails was controlled to destroy Woodleaf. Then, he told the story to when he became the human pillar force. The villagers treated me as a monster and hated me, so I didn't have a good time in Woodleaf. There's also one more thing. After I researched some small things, the higher-ups of Woodleaf used the excuse that I was a Woodleaf ninja and that it was Woodleaf who trained me. They used this as an excuse to monopolize my research results. The first Naruto nodded. It sounds like those people are indeed a little bad. Just a little bad? If it wasn't for the fact that he wasn't Naruto, the humiliation that those people gave him in his memory was enough for him to slaughter an entire village. By the way, I'm also your granddaughter's disciple. The first Naruto, who was originally calm, suddenly lost his composure and exclaimed, "What? You're actually that girl's disciple? Then, don't tell me you also like to gamble?" Naruto was speechless. What expression should he make now? However, it seemed like the first Naruto knew his granddaughter quite well. Seeing Naruto's speechless and confused expression, the first Naruto scratched his head like a big boy who had done something wrong. That girl, how is she now? Naruto reorganized his words. Not so good. Her brother died in the war, and then her lover died. The first Naruto seemed to have suffered a heavy psychological blow, and his entire person suddenly became extremely depressed. Naruto continued to unscrupulously complain. Also, the legends say that it was all because of you. The necklace that you passed down, these 2 people both wore it, and in the end, these 2 people who wanted to become Naruto both died. The first Naruto was even more depressed, and his entire person was like a withered eggplant. Naruto suddenly realized that attacking the first Naruto was quite interesting. After that, Master's Will was depressed, and she left Woodleaf alone to wander outside for many years. The first Naruto's soul seemed to be about to leave his body. The huge blow caused him to become a withered eggplant that had been castrated. After that, you should know that the third Naruto and his disciple Orochimaru had a big fight, and the third Naruto used Shiki Fujin, so he died. Woodleaf had no leader, so they continued to look for someone who could take on the responsibility. The first Naruto's eyelids twitched, and he hurriedly said, "It can't be. The person they were looking for was Tsunade, right?" Then Woodleaf. The first Naruto panicked. With Tsunade's gambling addiction, Woodleaf was finished. Naruto was surprised. Huh? You actually guessed it. That's right, the 5th Naruto is Tsunade. The first Hokage's whole body was soft on the table. He looked like a pile of meat without bones. His voice drifted, and he asked without any confidence, "Then Woodleaf is now?" Naruto rolled his eyes. He had already told him about his tragic life, but the first Naruto was still thinking about Woodleaf. And from the first Naruto's words, it seemed that he cared more about Woodleaf's future than his own granddaughter. Tsunade didn't become Naruto for long, and then she ran away. The current 6th Naruto is someone else. The first Naruto was instantly revived, and he said in surprise, "It's true." Naruto didn't know what to say. He discovered that his thoughts and values were not in sync with the first Naruto's at all. He couldn't help but ask, "Don't you care about your granddaughter? Your granddaughter is now a rebellious ninja, and many people have their eyes on her." The first Naruto's expression became serious. He said solemnly, "Did she do something wrong?" Naruto shook his head. "In my opinion, she didn't. She used Edo Tensei to revive her lover, Duan, and then eloped with Duan. Naruto stared at the first Naruto, waiting for the first Naruto's reaction. Chapter 368. Naruto stared at the first Naruto, waiting for the first Naruto's reaction. Then, 3 seconds passed. 5 seconds passed. Naruto's heart was in his throat, and he was inexplicably nervous. The first Naruto opened his mouth and said one word, "Oh." Naruto's mouth twitched. "What the hell are you oh for? I want to hear your opinion, and you give me an oh?" Naruto suppressed the madness in his heart and asked again, "What does oh mean?" The first Naruto tilted his head in confusion. It means I know." It seems, there's nothing wrong with the answer. Naruto decided to ask directly, "Then what's your opinion?" The first Naruto scratched his head stupidly. "I'm already dead, what's the value of my opinion?" This is the standard act of throwing the blame to someone else. Naruto could only be more explicit, "But now you've been summoned back to this world by me, right? Those people want to capture your granddaughter, don't you plan to do anything?" The first Naruto replied, "Well, I'm already dead, and I'm no longer Naruto, well, so, that. I don't think I need to participate in the capture. Well, that's it." Naruto's projection was unstable, and he almost died. The first Naruto was really not on the same channel as him. Naruto wanted to ask if he would help Tsunade. In the end, he replied that he would not participate in the capture. Then, in the first Naruto's mind, not participating in the capture was already the highest level of selfishness? This is definitely a pure and untainted saint. Naruto couldn't help but complain, "You already said that you're already dead, and you're no longer Naruto, so can't you help your granddaughter?" The first Naruto replied, "Well, but she really did make a mistake, and she should be punished for her mistake." Naruto asked, "What did you do wrong? Was it wrong to abandon Naruto and run away? Or use Edo Tensei?" The first Naruto hesitated for a moment. Abandoning Naruto's position. "I think she did the right thing." Then he muttered softly, "Otherwise, what if Woodleaf loses everything?" Naruto never looked at people with a perverted gaze, nor did he look at people through the crack of the door. But now, Naruto felt like he was looking at a ball of King holy light. It was golden and dazzling, even more dazzling than his soul. If there is a Buddha in the world, then Senju Hashirama deserves it. I was wrong to use Edo reincarnation. I was against it when that guy from the dimensional realm developed it. I only allowed him to use it in the war. I've always felt guilty about it. Naruto couldn't help but ridicule. What's the difference between stabbing a knife into the enemy's body and strangling him with a rope? Which one is kinder than the other? The first Naruto replied seriously, "Both are wrong, so my dream is world peace." Naruto, do you think you are Shuejichen? Dream of world peace? Naruto roared in his heart. At the same time, he was too lazy to waste his breath with the first Naruto. But after thinking about it, he couldn't help but have another question in his heart. Then what do you think of a ninja whose hands are already stained with blood? Since killing is wrong, then a ninja is a heinous crime, right? After all, including you, there is no ninja who doesn't have blood on their hands, right? The first Naruto closed his eyes and took a deep breath, as if recalling something. Then, he said, "Ninja. The so-called ninja is a person who works hard to achieve goals. Different standpoints and different goals will create different ninjas. And in order to achieve goals, sometimes, even if you are deeply sinful, and your hands are stained with blood, you have to do it. If you don't understand, I can tell you a story about the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan. The story of the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan is the story of Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. Naruto was very clear about this story, and he didn't want to listen to it again. As for Hashirama's words, in order to achieve goals, sometimes even if you are deeply sinful, and your hands are stained with blood, you have to do it. Isn't it saying that if I don't go to hell, who will? He's really a living Buddha. By the way, many of Hashirama's ninjutsu are related to Buddhism. Is he also a Buddhist? Fighting Saint Buddha? Funny, Naruto admitted that his outlook on life was very different from the first Naruto's, so he decided not to talk nonsense. Well, in short, a ninja is a group of people who stand on different standpoints and have different pursuits, and for their ideals and truth, they are willing to sacrifice their lives. Hashirama nodded and praised, "You understand very well. I believe it must be very easy for Tsunade to teach you." Easy? It's more than easy. Naruto waved his hand. But you know what? The Uchiha clan was destroyed, and the Uzumaki clan was also destroyed. The shinobi path and faith you pursued were all destroyed under the greed of human nature. It seems that all your efforts in the past were all in vain. By the way, the Senju clan is no longer a big clan like the Woodleaf clan, and only Sensei has any news, so. The Senju clan. After listening to this, Hashirama's body shook, and he was in a trance. He murmured, "The Uchiha clan was destroyed? What happened?" Naruto didn't want to say much, but since he already said this, he was a little bit unhappy. So he told him about how Danzo forced the Uchiha clan to rebel. Danzo, that guy, transplanted the 10 eyes of the Uchiha clan into his arm, and then used the spiritual power of the Sharingan in your cells. I originally planned to summon Danzo to ask him something, but I didn't expect to summon you. Hashirama said, "This person's style of doing things is very similar to Madara's. Too extreme." Alas, Naruto thought for a while, Danzo is also remarkable. After all, the conflict between the Woodleaf clan and the Uchiha clan was buried when the Uchiha clan established the security department. The security department is a job that offends people, but it was carried out by the Uchiha clan. Your brother's head is also full of holes. Speaking of Tobirama, Naruto had an idea. Why don't you summon Tobirama? Let the two of you get together. Thinking of doing it, Naruto arranged in the spiritual network, and soon the idle people from the Great Snow Mountain prison brought a prisoner to resurrect Tobirama. When Hashirama saw that Naruto was going to use a living person to cast the jutsu, he stopped him. "Although I am dead now, and I am no longer Naruto, I still can't watch you trample on people's lives like this." Naruto laughed. "You want to stop me? In my position, all of these people deserve to die. Even if they don't use the Edo Tensei, they will be executed." Hashirama frowned. "What did these people do wrong?" Naruto laughed. "Driven by interests, they came from all over the world to steal my research results." "Why? Doesn't the Woodleaf clan give death penalty to intruders?" Chapter 369. Woodleaf won't kill innocent ninjas who surrender. Hashirama's gaze was firm. Naruto turned his head and unlocked the curse seal on the person who was frozen by the bondage curse seal. He asked, "Are you willing to surrender?" The ninja spoke, "I am willing." Fuck. What a smooth answer. Naruto's mouth twitched. "Then tell me who hired you." The ninja quickly replied, "It's Kumogakure." Naruto rolled his eyes. "The fluctuation of soul power proves that you're lying." Naruto was too lazy to argue with the guy on the ground, so he turned to first Naruto and said, "Does this count as surrendering in Woodleaf?" The moment Naruto turned his head, the ninja who was released from the binding seal suddenly attacked Guni. The wind attribute chakra changed its nature and stabbed towards Guni's heart. It seemed that he wanted to drag someone down with him before he died. Naruto saw it. After all, the scene in front of him was transmitted to Naruto through a perception barrier. But Naruto didn't care. Guni glanced at the ninja, and the ninja's body was frozen. The binding seal reappeared all over the ninja's body. It wasn't just cast, but there had always been a binding seal on the ninja's body. Naruto's setting was that anyone with 4-star authorization or above could bind him. Of course, Naruto's temporary 1-star account was full of privileges. You see, he's just a wolf cub that can't be tamed, and you want to reform him? Naruto didn't say anything. Naruto tidied up the ninja's appearance and praised, "You didn't disgrace your identity as a ninja, so you can go on your way with glory." Naruto controlled Guni's body to cast a binding seal. He directly used Naruto's soul as the summoning medium. At the same time, Naruto was also on guard against first Naruto causing trouble. First generation Naruto formed hand seals. It was the origin Edo reincarnation removal technique. However, nothing happened after he used it. First generation Naruto was surprised. You actually changed the Edo reincarnation incantation seal? Naruto smiled and said, equal to 10 doesn't necessarily mean 5 plus 5, nor does it necessarily mean 4 plus 6. Ninjutsu is the same. If you understand the fundamental rules, 9 plus 1 can also be used successfully. That's right, this technique doesn't just change the technique, there's also... Naruto chuckled and snapped his fingers. There was no such seal in snapping fingers ninjutsu, but it was in line with Naruto's setting. After that, first Naruto's chest began to bulge. It was bulging. Was there something wrong with it? I originally wanted to use this to tease Danzo, but now I'll let you experience it for free. The first generation Naruto was horrified. He touched his upper body in shock. So soft. So comfortable, but... It would be different if this thing was on his body. It was King horrifying. What is this? First generation Naruto exclaimed, and then touched the area between his legs. Well, the balls are gone, and the stick is gone. Instead, it was replaced by a crack of lightning. First generation Naruto's face turned red and green. Shock, shame, and all kinds of complicated expressions appeared on his face. You, what did you do to me? The god of shinobi suddenly became shy like a little girl. This scene was beautiful. Naruto smirked and said, it's nothing. Edo reincarnation is a female ninja with a great figure, so, your current figure is also great. This is my improvement of Edo reincarnation. It can integrate the characteristics of the Jinchuriki and the summoner. If you like, I can also change your face, but it's more or less interesting. Wait a moment, I'll summon your younger brother. You and I want to know if your cool and silly younger brother will laugh like crazy when he sees your female appearance. While talking, Naruto began to arrange Edo reincarnation. How could Hashirama let Naruto do as he wished? Chuck suddenly burst out. A terrifying pressure swept in all directions. For a moment, the ground of the snowy mountain shook violently, and Guni's face turned pale. The title of God of Shinobi was definitely not self-proclaimed. You dare! Hashirama glared at Naruto. Naruto was only a projection. After Guni's physical condition was affected, the projection went into a daze and directly went out. But at the same time, a rune lit up on the roof of the laboratory on the first floor of the snowy mountain, and then Naruto's projection appeared again. Guni's line was blocked, so Naruto switched to another one. He wasn't affected at all. Why wouldn't I dare? Naruto laughed heartily. The next moment, first generation Naruto's aura and Chakra's violent aura instantly disappeared. Hashirama was stunned. Naruto explained, it seems that the energy in first generation cells has been exhausted. But to be able to erupt with such power with just a few drops of blood, the body of a sage is indeed terrifying. First generation Naruto tried to use chakra again, but found that he couldn't fuse with chakra normally. He looked up at Naruto. Is this also your doing? Naruto smiled. It's nothing powerful. It's just a rune that can cut off the connection between your spiritual power and your body. Of course, it's not completely cut off, but it can't fuse with chakra. As for what you just released, it's first-generation cells that aren't under your control. First-generation Naruto stared at Naruto. After 3 seconds, he suddenly admitted defeat. That. Tsunade's disciple. Can you see if I can change my body back? If Tobirama sees me like this, I won't have the face to see anyone anymore. Admit defeat? Naruto felt a bit emotional. Only those with bigger fists had the right to speak. Then, he smiled mischievously, ignored first-generation Naruto who was in despair, and re-established the connection with Guni. Edo Tensei. The reincarnation rune formation swam on the ground, summoning medium Naruto's soul and vessel to establish a connection with the formation. After the formation's preparation stage was completed, Naruto made a hand seal. His soul and body fused together, and the ashes floating in the air gathered towards the sacrifice. In the blink of an eye, it changed into first-generation Naruto's appearance. First-generation Naruto stared at Naruto's hand seal. Then, he said happily, "You're too careless. You actually used this technique in front of me." Saying so, he used the rune in reverse again, intending to dispel Edo Tensei. But still, nothing happened. First-generation Naruto couldn't use the physical strength of this body, but there was still power left in his cells. First-generation Naruto thought that if he squeezed it out, it should be enough to dispel the ninjutsu, but chakra had it, but the technique failed. "What's going on? I already dispelled the ninjutsu according to your method." Naruto rolled his eyes and said, "Can you not be so naive? If my ninjutsu could be learned by you like this, would I still use it in front of you?" Naruto's ninjutsu, including the improved summoning technique, all had part of the hand seal integrated into the rune formation, which needed to be triggered. However, Naruto wouldn't tell first-generation Naruto, because in Naruto's opinion, only an idiot would introduce his ninjutsu to someone else. Let's talk again, how about, I help you save my granddaughter? Don't worry, with me around, I won't let Wood Leaf touch her. Naruto smiled and said, "What about your principles?" Hashirama said seriously, "I'm no longer Naruto, and I'm already dead." What a shameless reply. But Naruto liked it. But if he gave up the pleasure of seeking death because of such a thing, would he still be Naruto? He hadn't sought death for a long time, and Naruto's heart was itching. Snap. Guni snapped his fingers. Then, second-generation Naruto slowly opened his eyes. Chapter 370. In the country of rain, the rain continued to fall. Fugu was taking a nap on the sofa in the shop. Yao Jie also said that Naruto could work part-time as a waiter and do odd jobs. For example, serving tea, pouring water, mopping the floor, passing a fruit platter, etc. However, Naruto rejected all of them with the word, lazy. Outside the country of rain, the giant flying squirrel moved forward silently. However, from time to time, 2 dimples would appear on his face. This inexplicable smile looked very strange. The Great Snow Mountain Research Institute, main floor. No matter how much the first Hokage and Hashirama begged, no matter what promises they made, the second Naruto, the younger brother of the first Naruto, Tobirama opened his eyes. His reaction was similar to when Hashirama woke up, but Tobirama's face showed a cruel smile. Interesting, it's this jutsu again. What's more interesting is that it didn't restrict my personality this time. There was a huge difference between Hashirama and Tobirama in terms of appearance. Hashirama's hairstyle was long and straight, similar to Hinata Ninji's hairstyle, but his hair was loose, and his bangs were combed from the middle to the sides. He also looked very neat. His skin was tanned by the sun. Tobirama, on the other hand, had short hair, a hedgehog head, white skin, and a very strong face. He stood there like a serious soldier. Tobirama stood with his back facing Hashirama. Therefore, the first thing he saw when he opened his eyes was Naruto's projection and Gunny. Senju's gaze fell on Naruto for a moment. Then he said to Guru, "Did you summon me back to this world?" Gunny's big eyes looked at the tall and handsome man in front of him. However, he pointed at Naruto and said, "It's not me, it's my master." Tobirama looked at Naruto again and frowned. He saw that Naruto was trying to hold back his laughter, so he said unhappily, "What's so funny?" The projection was much easier to control than the body. At least, he couldn't laugh out loud. Naruto held back the smile in his heart and said seriously, First of all, welcome back to this world again. I just had a good chat with your brother, first Hokage-sama. Your brother misses you very much, so I summoned you." Tobirama's expression froze and unexpectedly said, "Brother is here too?" Immediately, Tobirama felt the power of Hashirama's remaining cells in the air. It was indeed the aura of his brother's chakra. Tobirama suddenly turned his head and saw Hashirama kneeling in the corner with his hands on his head. Hashirama's head was facing away from Naruto, so Hashirama could only see Naruto's buttocks. Very, very round. Female? Not my brother? Tobirama turned his head and asked, "Where is my brother?" Naruto raised his hand, and his face was smiling. He pointed his finger at Hashirama and said, "That's your brother." Tobirama turned his head again in doubt. This time, Hashirama looked more carefully. He was sure that it was a girl. He was about to scold Naruto, but he sensed his brother's aura from the woman. "What's going on?" Tobirama walked step by step towards the woman who was holding her head on the ground, and her body was bent forward in frustration. The girl's hair covered her face, and he couldn't see her appearance. "You are..." Tobirama's words were halfway through. At this time, the girl suddenly made a move, and with lightning speed, she went behind Tobirama and was ready to stab the back of his head. When Hashirama was alive, he heard his brother say that the Edo Tensei was in his mind. This was the only way Hashirama could think of to avoid embarrassment. Solve Tobirama. However, the body Hashirama was using now was not his own, and he couldn't use chakra. Although Tobirama's body was not his, after all, chakra was not restricted. As soon as they fought, the winner was decided. Tobirama disappeared in the blink of an eye and reappeared behind the first Hokage. Then he used taijutsu to catch the first Hokage. After seeing the outline of the girl's face, Tobirama's serious face was gradually replaced by disbelief. "Turn your head," Tobirama scolded. Being caught and yelled at by his brother, this was the first time in his life. No, it should be before or after death. But Hashirama didn't have the face to look at his brother. At this moment, he couldn't wait to find a hole to crawl into. Tobirama increased his strength, and the hand was about to be broken, but the other party was still unyielding. Tobirama turned the pressure into a pull. The girl was in his arms, and Tobirama saw the face very clearly. "That's his brother's face." Tobirama lowered his head again and looked at his chest, and he raised his hand and poked it in disbelief. Hashirama was furious and waved his hand to open Tobirama's hand. "Poke the egg." This violent roar was low and rough, and it was the original voice of Hashirama. "It's really my brother." But this? Tobirama's eyes fell on Hashirama's chest. Hashirama raised his leg and kicked Tobirama's chin from the bottom to the top. Maybe because he was too shocked, or maybe because he didn't dare to challenge his brother, this time Tobirama didn't dodge and was kicked out. Puff. Naruto's projection had been lying on the ground without any image. At the same time, the giant flying squirrel suddenly covered its stomach and twitched on the ground. This made Deidara, who was bored and about to fall asleep on his shoulder. A little scorpion didn't fall down. When the two landed, Deidara was shocked and asked with concern, "What's wrong?" Naruto had a hard time holding back his laughter. The giant flying squirrel pouted his mouth, and his cheeks bulged. After adjusting a few times, he finally said, "My stomach hurts. Ha 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 ha." Then he laughed hysterically. If you meet a person who said that his stomach hurts and then laughed, this person is either a madman or a fool. At this time, this giant flying squirrel was one of the two in the eyes of Deidara and Scorpion. Ah ha 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 ha. Puff. Suck. Ha 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 ha. Puff. After failing to hold back his laughter a few times, the giant flying squirrel rolled around on the ground in laughter. Then, it hugged its stomach with one hand and hammered the ground with the other. Deidara looked at his ninja beast speechlessly and said to Scorpion, "I suddenly found that this child's brain seems to be a bit abnormal." Scorpion looked at the flying squirrel rolling on the ground with a serious face. "I don't feel attacked. Or I will transform it into a puppet. I think I will laugh to death if I keep laughing like this, Deidara. Or I will bury a bomb in it." At the same time, the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. When the second Naruto Tobirama stood up from the ground, Naruto also barely controlled his projection to stand up again. But at this time, The second Naruto Tobirama said to Hashirama, "Brother." "No." "Big sister." "No." "That." "Should I call you brother? Or big sister?" Puff. Naruto once again collapsed on the ground. Naruto Tobirama's face had an expression of hopelessness. His heart was pierced. Chapter 371. In Naruto's laughter, the anger in Hashirama's eyes was rising. "Hey, kid. Are you sure you want to eat me?" Hashirama has never been so irritable as now. He wanted to beat someone up. "It's best to cut off his head." Naruto held his stomach and straightened up, looking at Hashirama with a straight face for 3 seconds, then subconsciously moved his eyes down. When he saw the 2 bulging lumps of meat, he was stunned. Pfft. He laughed again. Naruto's face became gloomier, and he ordered Tobirama, "Did you invent this jutsu? You find a way to break it for me now. Otherwise..." Hashirama released a death stare full of resentment to Tobirama. That dark little face, because of the forced stimulation of Hashirama's cells, was a little thin, and looked terrible. Tobirama swallowed his saliva. It was the first time he saw such a broken brother. Subconsciously, he looked at Naruto, who was laughing. Still laughing. "It's really the ignorant who are fearless. I hope I won't let my brother get the opportunity in the future, otherwise, my brother's anger..." Tobirama suddenly shuddered. He thought of the day when he used Edo Tensei for the first time. His brother took him to the mountain, and forced him to mate with monkeys. So terrible. Of course, in the end, after he repeatedly promised not to use this jutsu, his brother finally let him go. But he had no doubt that if he would rather die than obey, that day would be his doomsday. After all, half of his clothes were taken off by his brother. Then what? Today, he may have a large group of monkeys. King monkeys go to hell. What the King monkeys? What's the problem? Hashirama's face was even darker, and his teeth made a terrible sound. Tobirama quickly came back to his senses and said, "No problem. I will break this jutsu." Tobirama couldn't control his eyes from looking at brother's chest, and looked down. But his intuition told him that if he looked again, the consequences would be very serious. So he quickly turned his head and looked at Naruto. He didn't know why, at this moment, he was a little grateful to Naruto's idea. After all, making a fool of his brother has always been the deepest thought in his heart. Thinking of his brother's female body, Tobirama wanted to find a place where no one was and laugh a few times. But even if he can't laugh, now he can die without regrets. Tobirama's hands quickly printed, and the speed was very fast. Release. Naruto, who was laughing, raised his head from the ground and looked over. After 3 seconds, nothing happened. Hashirama used Naruto's words to teach Naidame Hokage a lesson. "You have a pig's brain. It's equal to 10 is equal to 10 is equal to 10 is 4 plus 6 is equal to 1 plus 9? 2 plus 8. Tobirama was stunned and asked, "What do you mean?" Naruto replied, "It means that as long as you know the principle of ninjutsu, the hand seals can be changed." Hand seals can be changed? How come I don't know? Tobirama looked at him blankly. Pfft. Naruto's frozen expression laughed again. Then he continued to hold his stomach and laughed. Tobirama was annoyed. Then he demonstrated Naruto's hand seal to summon Tobirama. He used this hand seal to summon you. See if you can see anything. Tobirama's reaction was the same as that of the first Hokage. However, nothing happened. Tobirama was shocked and shouted at Naruto, "Did you change my ninjutsu?" Naruto raised his head, held back his laughter for a second, and then laughed again. Pfft. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. Don't tease me, let me take a breath, I'm going to be killed by you. The god of shinobi and his brother were ridiculed. Tobirama suddenly found that the kid in front of him wasn't cute anymore. Hashirama, Tobirama. At the same time, in the wilderness. The huge flying squirrel rolled several times on the ground. Deidara and Sasori didn't know what was going on and were speechless. Deidara, you don't have a stomachache, do you? What made you so happy? After a long time, Naruto took a breath. I suddenly thought of a joke. Then he couldn't help but laugh again. Deidara asked strangely, "What joke?" Naruto said perfunctorily, "A ghost. Pft, dead. Ha 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 ha." Then Naruto laughed again. Deidara and Sasori's indifferent face. Finally, Sasori suggested, "You should become smaller before laughing." Then the giant flying squirrel began to shrink to the size of a fist at a speed visible to the naked eye. Deidara took the little flying squirrel and put it in his pocket, ignoring the little flying squirrel who continued to laugh, and the two continued on their way. Sasori said, "It's deliberately playing a bear, right?" Deidara, most likely, but it has been carrying us for a long time, so it should rest." The conversation between the two fell into Naruto's ears, and he couldn't help but feel a little moved. Naruto was quite tired along the way. Thus, he stopped laughing. Sasori rolled his eyes. "Not laughing?" I said, "A ghost, dead. What's so funny about this story?" However, Deidara suddenly froze and said in surprise, "Sasori, you can tell jokes?" Then with a pft sound, Deidara held his stomach and laughed, muttering, "Ha ha ha, Sasori can tell jokes, pft, pft. I'm dying of laughter. Ha 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 ha." Deidara's laughter evoked Naruto's laughter, and the two laughed crazily. After a long time, Naruto finally stopped his demonic laughter. At the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute, Naruto, Hashirama, and Tobirama began to chat again. Naruto's original intention was to talk about the Uchiha clan. The security department, a law enforcement department, is actually a member of the Uchiha clan? What's wrong with your head? Is your original intention to push the Uchiha clan out of the wood leaf? After learning that the Uchiha clan had been destroyed, Tobirama's expression was a little heavy. "I just arranged for them to do what they are good at." Naruto retorted, "But if you use your brain, you'll think that the law enforcers who are powerful but not the ruler of the village will easily cause other people to reject them." Tobirama was in a bad mood. "Oh? Do you have a way? If it was you, what would you do?" Naruto replied, "A law enforcement department like the security department must be integrated into various groups of people. This way, it won't let the clan that monopolizes the power become increasingly arrogant, and it won't let the controlled people reject people of different surnames because of it." Hashirama looked at Naruto unexpectedly. He could feel that what Naruto said makes sense, but he will not express his position, nor will he praise Naruto. He has vowed that no matter what, he will beat this little guy who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Tobirama fell into deep thought. "What you said makes sense. Then, how do you think to deal with the relationship between the various clans in the village?" Naruto smiled and said, "This problem is also very simple. As long as you don't see the clan as a whole, you see each person as a separate whole, eliminate the clan consciousness, and strengthen individual rights. Take a chestnut, rock, lime, water. The three put together are easy to distinguish, but if you grind the rock into sand and mix the lime and water together, it will form a strong cement." Saying that, Naruto magically used the image to simulate the operation of the layer. This made Hashirama and Tobirama, who didn't know what cement was, understand what Naruto wanted to express. Tobirama fell into deep thought. Naruto's example was vivid, and it was not difficult to analyze it. When he understood, his eyes couldn't help but light up. A bit interesting, but the concept of the clan is deeply ingrained. If you want to break the original clan system, it's not easy, right? Chapter 372. Hashirama snorted, "Well, it's easy to say, ninja families pass on ninjutsu to each other. What's more, like the Uchiha clan, Senju clan, Hyuga clan, and other clans with bloodline limits, they rarely intermarry with outsiders. The reason why the Senju clan and the Uzumaki clan intermarry is that they inherited a strong physique. Because it doesn't pollute the bloodline, they can intermarry with each other." Naruto's mouth curved slightly, and his face was full of sarcasm. "Why must we preserve the so-called bloodline? Because bloodline represents power? Hashirama stared at Naruto. Because we have power to protect the village, that's why ninjas exist. Naruto raised his eyebrows and sneered. Then your tolerance is just your so-called village is just a big family. Your peace is just to gather stronger power and threaten the enemy with strength. But the real power, the real ninja, can only be bred in the fire of war. This is an endless cycle, the war will never stop, and the world peace you yearn for is just a bubble-like dream. Naruto's words were a bit harsh. Hashirama frowned, and Tobirama frowned. For this person who dared to scold his brother, Tobirama, felt very much like him. After all, this was also his deepest wish buried in his heart. But at the right time, it's still necessary to be a peacemaker to ease the stiff atmosphere. Unless you have a solution to this problem, otherwise, we'll just be arguing. Tobirama's serious face. Today he smiled kindly at Naruto. Naruto ignored Tobirama's kindness and asked, "What is the reason for the war?" Hashirama replied, "All countries want to expand their territory." Naruto continued to ask, "Why expand territory?" Naruto's approach made Hashirama not very happy. Of course, if it was someone else, he might not care. He had always been a kind and humble person. But Naruto actually gave him a woman's body, and let his brother see it. This hatred is big. However, Hashirama's tolerance was still there. He took a deep breath and calmed down the irritable mood of Kuben. He said, "Because of resources, a larger land means a wider hunting ground and more fields." Naruto smiled and said, "Finally, you answered the right question. Resources are the source of the war. If it's a beast, then in order to survive, it must guard a piece of land, a piece of hunting ground. But people have wisdom, why can't we do it in a more intelligent way? There are 5 countries in the East, West, South, North, and Central. The geographical location of these 5 countries will inevitably lead to different resources. For example, Sanin the desert is in an oasis, they lack of water. Food and water, if food and water can't supply, they will inevitably have to expand their population. Increase. Of course, I'm just hypothesizing an example about resources, I haven't studied the actual situation." After emphasizing, Naruto continued, "At this time, the neighboring country Fire has rich water resources and fertile land. What do you think Sanin will do?" Hashirama looked at Naruto. It was a very simple question, but he still answered, "Invasion." Naruto nodded and continued, "Yes, it's an invasion. I believe it's the same if the 2 villages are reversed. On the other hand, if Sanin has the resources needed by Woodleaf in the Fire Country, Woodleaf will also invade Sanin." Naruto shook his head. "No, Woodleaf is in the most fertile land, we don't lack food and water." Naruto rolled his eyes. "In your eyes, is there nothing but food and water? Sanin is rich in gems, right? Those rich people like it very much, right? There are also many minerals. Well, forget it, minerals haven't been developed in your era." With that said, Naruto looked at Hashirama with pity. Hashirama felt that something called self-esteem seemed to have been pricked. He was despised. At this time, Tobirama spoke, "I understand what you mean that the Wind Country also has something that the Fire Country needs, right?" Naruto nodded again and praised, "Oh, you are much better than your brother. If it wasn't for your brother's good blood and strength, he would be nothing." Hashirama's face was not only black, but his whole body was black. However, he didn't show any anger, but his mood suddenly became low. It seemed that he had suffered a great blow. Naruto comforted, "Don't blame yourself, it's not your fault, after all, the frog living in the well only has a big blue sky above its head." MMP. Naruto didn't comfort Hashirama, but after comforting him, Hashirama's soul was out of his body again. Naruto continued, "Sanin has what Woodleaf wants, Woodleaf has what Sanin wants, why don't the 2 sides trade with each other? The ancient trade is barter, now that we have money, it's easier to measure the trade." Naruto suddenly felt refreshed. Next to him, Tobirama said, "But trade also costs money, and invasion. It's a business without capital, so even if it can be traded, It's only between two forces with the same strength, for the weak forces still can't escape the fate of being invaded. Naruto praised again, "You really are the one who established the Order of Woodleaf. Even if you did the stupid thing of making the Uchiha clan the security department, it's still remarkable." At this moment, Tobirama and his brother finally had a resonance in their hearts. He wanted to give chubby Naruto a good beating. This guy's mouth. "It's really bad." At this time, Hashirama suddenly answered proudly, "I also thought about the balance of power, so I held the 5 countries conference to distribute the ninja beasts to other countries." Naruto looked at Hashirama as if he was mentally retarded. "So, is the war over?" Hashirama's proud face darkened. Naruto's mood also became gloomy. "I said the destruction of the Uchiha clan. I didn't say the destruction of the Uzumaki clan. According to my speculation, the destruction of the Uzumaki clan is entirely because of your decision." Hashirama suddenly raised his head and denied, "Impossible." Naruto continued, "The Uzumaki clan is good at sealing, right? Konoha's first Jinchuriki is Uzumaki Mito, your wife, right? When Woodleaf mastered the power of the Bijou, how many villages mastered it?" Hashirama replied, "Sannin." Naruto asked, "What about the other villages? Will the other villages wait for you to attack them?" Hashirama firmly said, "I never thought of invading other villages." Naruto sneered, "You said that if you want a fair trade, you must have the same force." Hashirama replied, "So I gave them the ninja beasts." Naruto stared at Hashirama, "But you didn't teach them how to seal the Bijou and make the human pillar force, right?" Hashirama replied, "Let them study it by themselves, this can delay some time." After saying that, Hashirama was shocked. Is it, for the sealing technique, they joined forces to deal with the Uzumaki clan? Naruto smiled. Shaking his head, he said, "I don't know, this is just a guess." Hashirama didn't ridicule Naruto, he fell into a huge self-blame. Is it really me?" Naruto waved his hand indifferently and said, "I said so much to you. In fact, I just want to express one meaning. Yes, you are all wrong. The village you built is also wrong. So, don't stand on the side of justice and criticize others. The pot calling the kettle black and the kettle calling the kettle black are both quite boring." Tobirama suddenly thought of something and stared at Naruto very seriously. "So, what do you want to do? Unify the world?" Chapter 373. The first Naruto Hashirama stared at Naruto with a serious face. The second Naruto Tobirama was also dignified. Both of them were waiting for Naruto's answer. 3 seconds passed. Naruto's expression was also dignified. However, in the 5th second, Naruto suddenly smiled. "What I want to do is to live happily every day in the ninja world." Puff, puff, puff. Naruto seemed to hear the sound of a broken heart and vomiting blood in the soul. One came from the great Naruto Hashirama, and the other came from his successor Tobirama. The other one was laughing, and it was Guni who had been watching the melon. Hashirama took a deep breath and said seriously, "Don't make trouble, this is a very serious matter. If you want to unify the ninja world, then I can choose to forget the hatred we made before." Tobirama also said, "Although I don't know how you have such a big vision at such a young age, I feel that if it's you, it's possible to do what we can't do." Speaking of this, Tobirama was obviously excited, and he couldn't even control himself. His eyes were burning with the flames of war. Conquering the world is the deepest dream in the hearts of all men. Tobirama clenched his fists and said, "If you have this idea, I am willing to assist you." Hashirama turned to his younger brother and said, "How can you assist me? You are already dead. Do you want to stay in this world with this ninjutsu? I will never allow this kind of thing. Edo Tensei is not a real resurrection, and the effect is very short. This body will be wasted in a few months. When the time comes, you'll sacrifice others." "This kind of thing," Tobirama interrupted his brother and said, "If sacrificing hundreds of people can exchange for the peace and prosperity of the whole world, even if I become an Asura, even if I commit heinous crimes, I am willing. Tobirama's words were loud and clear. His attitude was unprecedentedly tough. It can be seen that he has made the greatest determination. This determination is a determination that must be achieved even if he has to give up everything. Hashirama stared at his brother and didn't know what to say for a while, and finally spit out a sentence, "I still don't agree." Tobirama's expression became cold. "I don't need your consent, this is my choice." Then he said, "In order to protect the village, you killed your best friend Uchiha Madara, right?" Tobirama smiled, a cold man's smile. It's like a ray of sun, a ray of hope born in destruction. "I can do that kind of thing." The scene in front of him fell into Naruto's eyes, and he suddenly felt something in his heart. His understanding of the ninja. From the mouth of the first Naruto, the so-called ninja is a group of people who endure hardships in order to achieve their goals. Because of different standpoints and different pursuits, different ninjas were born. Now, Tobirama. Senju, Senju, Senju. Tobirama. What about Naruto? Is he interested in unifying the world? Unifying the world is a fart. There is no war, no death. What does it have to do with him? As long as he is full, warm, and live well, then he will be superior. It would be fine as long as he could live his entire life in an awesome manner, or he could live his entire life in an awesome manner. That's right. He's a selfish person. Naruto can even be very shameless and proudly shout out his ideals. "I'm living for my own fun." But Tobirama Naruto's loyalty. Naruto's soul consciousness has begun to rub his hands nervously. What is this? A big pie fell from the sky. It's a super big one. 85% of Wood Leaf's forbidden jutsu was developed by Tobirama Naruto, and 85% of ninjutsu was developed or improved by Tobirama Naruto. Don't think that Naruto can change the Edo Tensei to something that even Tobirama Naruto can't solve. Naruto is better than Tobirama Naruto. Naruto is very clear about his own weight. His current achievements are just a little innovation that surpasses ordinary people in talisman arrays. Just like in his previous world, the programmer who developed the software is at most a little bit better because he developed an operating system. But that's it. If Tobirama Naruto learns the little bit of technology he understands, Naruto believes that Tobirama Naruto can definitely create something that he can't even imagine. Because the ninjutsu developed by Tobirama Naruto can be said to be almost created out of nothing, creating a precedent. And he is standing on the shoulder of a giant. Therefore, Tobirama Naruto's loyalty is very valuable. Mother****, this kind of afterthought can make me laugh out loud. Also, the main reason why he talks so much with these two people today is that there is nothing to do in the rain country, and it's boring to just sit there. Deidara and Sasori have been on the road, and it's even more boring. That's why Naruto found someone to chat with. And he originally planned to find Danzo to chat. Tobirama Naruto coming out is an accident. Tobirama Naruto purely wants to mock Naruto and then say his own thoughts. What can it prove? I am better than you. If I am Naruto, I will definitely be better than you. Simply put, hindsight is Zhuge Liang, ***** ting. Hiss. Naruto took a deep breath. This time, if 100 points is the full score, Naruto will give himself 120 points. Naruto's inner world is already high. At this moment, the first Hokage Hashirama and the second Hokage Tobirama were still confronting each other. But in the end, Tobirama Naruto was defeated and sighed, "You have your choice, and I can't stop you now, but I won't stay in this world in this way. I will support you in spirit." After the two finished talking, Tobirama looked at Naruto. Naruto bent his knees and knelt on one knee in shock. This is the highest courtesy of an Umbu ninja to a superior. Ninjas need to be on guard against any danger that may happen at any moment, so the kneeling leg is obedience, and the other leg is support, ready to stand up to prevent emergencies. With the rest of my life. It seems that he didn't have any rest of his life. He changed his words temporarily. As long as you can bring peace to this world, I am willing to assist you. To be honest, Naruto's mouth is dry now. He has read the romance of the Three Kingdoms. Chow Chow's tiger body shook, and warriors knelt down to surrender. That kind of thing should only happen in dreams. Damn it, Tobirama Naruto is surrendering to me. He's no less than Zhao Zilong of Chongshan City. Tobirama Naruto stared at Naruto. Tobirama Naruto has already nodded and is waiting for his punishment. The atmosphere is unprecedentedly tense. This is a big scene. If Orochimaru saw this scene, he would be scared to death. At this time, Tobirama Naruto sighed. Sigh. If I live in this world, I really want to do something big with you. What a pity. What's a pity? Does Tobirama Naruto want to do something with him? Naruto's little sweetheart is dancing like an old disco today. Chapter 374. What should I say at this time? Yes, I do. No, that's what the bride and groom said at the wedding ceremony. Naruto's head was a little dizzy now. He opened his mouth and said, "Dear Minister, please rise." Then he almost slapped himself in the face. You useless thing. Where did your usual death-seeking courage go? Isn't it just the loyalty of a second-generation Naruto? Nervous my ass. I'm not nervous. Naruto roared in his heart, but he was still nervous. How to say it, after all, he was one of the big figures who created Wood Leaf. Although Naruto's words were clear and logical, in fact, he was just a theoretical doctor. He was good at playing all kinds of single-player games. What team, what big picture, what is that? Do you expect an otaku to turn into an emperor or a general after crossing worlds? As for Naruto's shallow understanding, it was just that he once lived in a more developed world than Naruto's world. To put it simply, he used the experience in textbooks to pretend. If there's anything different about coming to this world, it's that his brain capacity is bigger now, and his thinking is more agile. Well, after devouring the soul of a ninja, he's more cold-blooded to human life. Naruto's words made the first-generation Naruto, the second-generation Naruto, and Guni all look confused. They didn't understand. After all, the difference between cultures is calculated in time and space. Tobirama raised his head and looked at Naruto. I beg you, to keep me by your side, don't worry, I can find the body used for Edo Tensei myself. Naruto finally recovered and waved his hand. I don't need those few lives. There are 6 or 7 people coming to the Snow Mountain prison every few days. Since the reputation of the Snow Country virtual reality movie spread, the Snow Country didn't lack invaders. Naruto was very happy about this, otherwise, it would be troublesome to give Yakushi the Edo Tensei. You, get up. From now on, you will stay by my side. That, Tobirama, don't be too reserved, just treat this place as your own home. Naruto felt that his tongue was a little off. No matter how he listened to it, it sounded like what his second aunt in the countryside had once said to him. But in order to cover up the awkwardness, he had to do something. Naruto raised his hand, and chakra of the Great Snow Mountain surged out and helped the second Naruto up. He turned to look at the first Naruto. You don't want to stay, right? Naruto nodded. It's fine. If you're willing to come here, you're always welcome. Come visit me often. Bah. He's trying to escape again. Escape my ass, he's already dead. Well, that's all for today. Hashirama's body can still be used for 3 months. Have fun with me for the next 3 months. Today's ninja world is different from your time. And I've also invented a lot of fun things. Speaking of this, Naruto finally thought of the identity card. He called out to Big Fatty through the spiritual network. Give me 2 identity cards. One is temporary 1 star, and the other. How many stars should he give to Tobirama? 5 stars was impossible. The highest authority could only be in the hands of him and the spiritual network administrator, Big Fatty. 4 star. After all, he was the village chief. Don't treat the village chief as a cadre. Give him a 4 star. Give me another 4 star. The matter was arranged. Big Fatty was soon ready. He put the 2 cards into a small box. "Boss, you can summon now." Then, he suddenly thought of something and quickly stopped him. "No, wait, I gave you the wrong authority. I gave you the original body. Now, you're using Guru's body, right? Alright, boss can communicate with his spirit now." Naruto received Big Fatty's report. He controlled Guru's body, triggered Guru's identity card, and then snapped his fingers casually. Snap. In front of Naruto's eyes, smoke rose due to Chakra's high concentration. Bang. Then 2 cards were caught in his hand before they fell to the ground. At the same time, there was also a knife. Naruto gave the 2 cards to the 2 and said, "This knife can bleed on the body of the Edo Tensei," and then drip the blood on the card to complete the binding. Tobirama took the knife. The knife cut his hand, and blood flowed out. He couldn't help but be surprised. "This knife can reverse the life form of the Edo Tensei? It seems that your exploration of the Edo Tensei ninjutsu is no less than mine, or even better." For a moment, Tobirama looked at Naruto with a few traces of admiration and fanaticism. Naruto waved his hand casually. "This is nothing, it's just a tree planted by the ancestors. Compared to you who created this technique, it's really nothing." After a round of flattery, both of them were very happy. Hashirama was unhappy. That kind of cruel ninjutsu shouldn't have appeared. Hashirama's holy light shone. However, it was beautifully ignored by the 2. Tobirama dripped blood on the card, and the novice tutorial appeared in front of him. His eyes were as wide as Columbus's when he first discovered the new world. His eyes were filled with surprise and disbelief. "How is this done? Is this also a ninjutsu? Elder brother, come and take a look." As he said that, he stabbed the knife in first Naruto's hand. First Naruto happened to be holding the card in his hand, and the binding was successful. This time, the novice tutorial was optimized by Guru and the other girls. Different from the original simple version, it was a basic virtual reality projection system with a lifelike navigation wizard. As for the appearance, you can choose from Guru, Big Fatty, Snake, and Rolling Panda. Guru was a little elf with small wings on her back, and she assisted in explaining the control of the operation panel. Big Fatty Owl had wings and could fly on its own. Snake and Rolling Panda originally planned to add wings, but it didn't look right. They directly changed it to a transparent bubble under their buttocks, which was also very cute. Anyway, this time the operation panel only had 7 words. Visually cool. Awesome. Hashirama was a little reluctant at first, but the moment Guru's soft lowly voice sounded, his uncle's heart was instantly healed. "Is this a ninjutsu of this era?" Hashirama asked the same question that his brother had asked before. Naruto proudly replied, "No, the ninjutsu of this era is similar to that of your era. It only exists to kill people, and it's so monotonous that it's explosive. What you see is the result of my and my apprentice's research." At the same time, he recited the slogan, "Copyright, piracy will be investigated." Naruto was shocked. "You and your apprentices? You already have apprentices?" "What do you mean you already have apprentices?" "I have a lot, okay?" Naruto rolled his eyes. "Let's go, I'll take you to the upper level to have a look." The 4 of them walked together, and Hashirama asked, "You said that someone stole your technology, were you referring to this?" Naruto shook his head. "No, Wood Leaf wanted to steal the combat prosthetic limbs I developed. The Edo Tensei just now wanted to steal the virtual reality movie technology. By the way, there are 3 virtual reality movies in the entertainment channel. You can take a look." In the novice tutorial, the entertainment channel was already introduced. The 2 of them didn't get lost and soon found it. Moreover, the navigation elf was in front of them at any time. Well, they needed to use the help panel. After all, the artificial intelligence wasn't out yet. The 2 brothers ordered a virtual reality movie to watch. 5 minutes later, they looked at Naruto at the same time. "Need points." Naruto blinked. "You want points?" The 2 of them nodded again and again. The dazzling scenes of the virtual reality movie were like the claws of a kitten scratching their little hearts again and again. Naruto finally returned to his original character and smiled slyly. You have to earn points yourself. Well, the easiest way is to share ninjutsu. Naruto's little abacus started to crackle again. Speaking of which, first Naruto. Would he suddenly be infatuated with this world and not want to leave? Thinking of this, Naruto seriously pondered. He felt that virtual reality movies alone weren't enough, he should develop some virtual reality games. But before that, there was another thing to do, and that was to find Orochimaru. Orochimaru dared to threaten him. Naruto couldn't bear it. Chapter 375. It's a bit difficult to find Orochimaru's base, but Naruto has a bold plan in mind. He wants to make a satellite and scan the entire ninja world from the sky. Not to mention Orochimaru, even Tsunade can be found. Also, he can scan the map of the entire world, by the way. Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. What is this? Hashirama opened the refrigerator and was shocked to find that it was cold inside. He was surprised. Is there ice in the interlayer? Naruto's three-dimensional projection floated past Hashirama like a lonely ghost and explained, by the way, that's the refrigerator, used to keep it fresh, and used to store cold drinks and ice cream. Speaking of ice cream, Naruto suddenly thought of something. By the way, although the Edo Tensei can't eat, they can still taste a little ice cream. Naruto floated back and pointed to the ice cream cone inside and said, well, the green one is green apple flavor, and the pink one is strawberry. You can choose one you like. Hashirama's eyes lit up and he chose the strawberry. Then he took a small bite. When the sweetness of the strawberry touched the taste buds on the tip of the tongue, Hashirama's face showed an extremely satisfied expression. Hashirama was enjoying it, making Tobirama, who was watching this scene, feel embarrassed. Onie-san, Naruto raised his hand, and Chakra of the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute was called, dragging the remaining green apple flavor ice cream cone and handing it to Tobirama. Try it, it tastes good. Tobirama hesitated for a moment, but finally took it. It was cool and refreshing, and Tobirama's eyes lit up. But he wasn't as useless as Hashirama. He pretended to be calm, but he ate it extremely carefully, as if he was afraid to eat too much in one bite, which was also very cute. Did you also invent the refrigerator? Naruto shook his head. The refrigerator is an electrical product, a product of this era. Naruto took the two to the laboratory on the second floor of the Great Snow Mountain. There were many prosthetic parts on the workbench of the laboratory on the second floor. Tobirama picked up one of the prosthetic arms and was surprised. This is a puppet? Naruto explained, it's not wrong to call it a puppet, but this is a prosthetic limb, prepared for the wounded on the battlefield. At the mention of the disabled, Hashirama's mouth stopped moving, and he subconsciously looked at Guru. Gu Nyenji noticed that Gurney's legs were prosthetics at first glance. Tobirama said, Would Leaf and the other juniors, they want these? Naruto pointed to the booth next to him and said, To be precise, those are the ones. First, I developed a prosthetic limb to solve the problem of the disabled Wood Leaf. Continue to improve on the basis of this, and issue combat prosthetics, which can allow disabled ninjas to continue to fight. Woodleaf has a lot of disabled ninjas. If they can be turned into treasures, this will be a great combat power for Woodleaf. Tobirama put down the prosthetic in his hand and picked up the thing called combat prosthetic that Naruto pointed out. Because there was no simulated skin rubber attached, the bare surface flashed with a metallic luster. But to Tobirama's surprise, this seemingly heavy object actually had the same weight as the previous wooden object. The workmanship of the combat prosthetic was exquisite, and every part and every finger was like a work of art. Tobirama tapped it with his finger and didn't dare to be very confident. Is this iron? Naruto explained, to be precise, it's an alloy. It's harder than iron, resistant to corrosion, abrasion, and lightweight. Tobirama's eyes were full of splendor. Then he picked up a seemingly empty shell next to him. This is unfinished? Naruto glanced at it and was a little surprised. This is a combat armor that was developed a long time ago. There was only a part from the wrist to the palm. Naruto raised his eyebrows and smiled. That's a more advanced thing for normal people to use. I call it combat armor. The development of combat armor is still similar to the structure of the first-generation Iron Man. There is no folding function, it's a separate part. Tobirama tried to put it on his hand and found that it was a little small. However, when chakra connected with the forearm structure of the combat armor, the touch was still there. As a ninja, of course, he understood what this meant. At the same time, he also noticed that the touch was similar to a sealing rune. Very magical. Naruto continued to explain, the development of the combat armor is still very simple, there are no weapons on it, and it's not a complete set yet. But in the next period of time, the combat armor will be completed very quickly. The living limbs of Gorny and the others are being cultivated, and when the cultivation is completed, their weapons will be replaced. After a simple stroll around the laboratory on the second floor, Naruto took the two up a long flight of stairs to the third floor. On the third floor, Little Gorny, Big Gorny, and Sakura Haruno were all there, but they weren't doing any research projects. Instead, they were playing poker. Stop playing, there's a new project to develop. Hearing that there's a new project, the girls' interest was piqued, and they all gathered together. Sakura Haruno turned her head, and when she saw the first Naruto and second Naruto, she was in a trance. The people of Woodleaf are very familiar with these two faces. After all, as long as they look up every day, they can see the big faces on Naruto Rock. It's hard not to be familiar with them. Plus, every face on Naruto Rock is Woodleaf's hero. Sakura Haruno covered her mouth in disbelief. Her eyes swept over the two faces, and she stared at Naruto in disbelief. You. First Naruto, Sama, and second Naruto, Sama. Edo Tensei? Hashirama and Tobirama turned their heads and looked at Sakura Haruno, who was in shock. Hashirama licked the strawberry cone on his lips and asked, Huh? This little guy also knows me? Is he also a child of Woodleaf? Sakura Haruno hurriedly came over and saluted. Naruto briefly introduced the two sides. These two, yes, they are the two founders of Woodleaf. The first Naruto Hashirama, known as the god of shinobi, and the second Naruto Tobirama, who created countless ninjutsu. Among them, first Naruto is here to stay for a few days, and he will leave when the vitality of the body of the Edo Tensei is exhausted. Everyone, just treat him warmly. Tobirama is a permanent resident, and everyone will be a family in the future, so if there's anything you don't understand about ninjutsu practice, you can discuss it with each other. Sakura Haruno was shocked by Naruto's words. Hashirama was a little shy, scratching the back of his head like a big boy, and said embarrassedly, I'm not that powerful. Tobirama frowned and looked at the girls and said, These people, are all people who assist you? Why are they all women? Huh. It sounds like... Second Naruto is a male chauvinist. Sakura Haruno felt strange and said, Assist? What assist? Naruto laughed and said, Nothing, ahahaha, these people are all my apprentices. Chapter 376. Apprentice. Tobirama looked at Naruto. Naruto explained, Well, apprentices in sealing, each of them played an important role in the construction of the spiritual network. The look of doubt on Tobirama's face dissipated and was replaced by great appreciation. After all, in his opinion, the spiritual network is really magical. Then he asked, Oh, what about the people who are loyal to you? Loyal? How could there be? All the girls looked at Naruto. Fortunately, Naruto is now a projection of consciousness, otherwise, his face will definitely be as red as a monkey's butt. When Naruto didn't know how to answer, a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind. They are still on the way. Naruto thought of the matter of letting the Edo Tensei team to buy children from the underground exchange. Naruto originally intended to invest those people in the construction of the Snow Country. But now, he will take their place as a last resort. As for unification of the world, maintenance of world peace, Naruto didn't think about it, and he is not interested. Therefore, Naidame Hokage didn't want to mess around. Then, he can squeeze the second Naruto during this period, let the second Naruto teach him ninjutsu, and even let the second Naruto participate in the construction of the spiritual network. Naruto believes that with this ninjutsu manufacturing machine, his spiritual network may usher in a qualitative leap. This was a sure-win deal. Well, it's settled then. Quietly putting away the small abacus, Naruto changed the topic and said, "Well, since everyone already knows each other, let's get to the point." Naruto glanced around and suddenly found that Dobby was not there. He contacted Dobby through the spiritual network and said, "Come to the first floor." Dobby was on the 8th floor. After hearing Naruto's instructions, he jumped and glided down the circular gap in the mountain. Soon, the valiant Dobby appeared in front of everyone. Naruto didn't introduce anymore. "Well, since everyone is here, then I will start talking about the next research project." Little Guni suddenly raised her hand. "I know." Naruto was stunned. How could Little Guni know? He hasn't said it yet. He looked at Little Guni suspiciously. "What do you know?" Little Guni happily said, "It's the research on armor, right? Gu and I told me that we're already in the process of growing our living limbs." "Ugh. Guni, this big mouth. Well, it's reasonable to say that it should be the research. But it's Oras's is asking for trouble." "That. Indeed, it's research, but not now." Little Gunny pouted angrily when he realized that he had guessed wrongly. That living's body. What is the living body? If Senju Hashirama knew that he was still experimenting on humans, what would happen? Naruto quickly interrupted. "Well, it's also a new technology. I'll introduce it to you later." Naruto muttered in his heart, "Bye-bye in 3 months, I'll burn some paper money to tell you when you go back." As for Tobirama, it's still the same sentence, I'll fool him for as long as I can. Naruto hurriedly brought the topic back to the topic after he was done with first Hokage. What we're going to research next is called a satellite. Simply put, it's a high-quality surveillance camera. When the time comes, we will find a way to send it to the sky. Everyone stood together in a daze. To be honest, they didn't understand. Then Naruto's class started again. He talked about the rotation of the planet, the atmosphere, and the boundary of space. The boundary of space, that is, the boundary between the atmosphere and outer space. This world is very big, but the boundary of space isn't very far. In Naruto's memory, the boundary of the Earth space was 118 kilometers. He didn't know the boundary of this planet, but it shouldn't be longer than the Earth's. And this distance can be extended by the perception barrier, as long as the spherical perception barrier is changed to a unidirectional one. So there's no pressure on the technology. Naruto's class continued. From the boundary of space, he talked about the relative static of physics. After speaking, everyone was shocked by Naruto's plan. "You mean you want to launch something called a satellite, and then monitor the whole world?" Sakura Haruno's beautiful eyes were wide open. This plan is the most shocking and crazy plan she has heard so far. Naruto replied, "It's not monitoring, but it's convenient to collect information. If this plan is successfully completed, then the scanning of the world's map will not be completed by manpower. This will greatly save manpower and material resources. Secondly, I want to use this method to determine the whereabouts of Orochimaru. Every time Orochimaru returns to the base, he uses a space ninjutsu similar to reverse summoning. The location he leaves is also random. In addition, the card's positioning system can only record vague location information without an accurate map. All these reasons are difficult to find Orochimaru. But if there is a satellite, there will be accurate map information. As long as Orochimaru leaves the base, we can connect the ID card's positioning with the satellite and grasp the information of his movements after leaving the base." This time, the girls understood. Originally, Big Fatty also wanted to raise doubts. Although the perception barrier can be directed to a very long distance, the consumption of chakra is also huge, and it's impossible to open it all day. In this way, the significance of the satellite doesn't exist, but listening to Naruto's explanation, after determining the location of Orochimaru, they will use the satellite to locate him. In this way, there will be no problem. So they also nodded. Tobirama lacks too much homework. He can't understand what these people are talking about, but he can hear that Naruto is looking for Orochimaru. So he said, Orochimaru is our next target? Well, Tobirama regarded this as a world mission to conquer the world. Naruto replied, Orochimaru is a threat to us, so we have to find him first, and then, kill him. There is one sentence that Naruto didn't say, that is, the Edo Tensei will absorb him. This time, it's Hashirama's turn to be interested. It's a big pity that Sandaime-sama didn't take him down. However, no one answered his words. Naruto turned to everyone and continued to arrange. The first-generation satellite will be built on the spiritual network and perception barrier, but this is not a finished satellite. After all, this consumes too much energy, and the effect is very low. This shortcoming will be left for the second-generation satellite to improve. The second-generation satellite will integrate electronic technology and ninjutsu. Well, we need to develop an electronic eye that can penetrate beyond 118 kilometers. This matter, let's leave it to the electronics manufacturers. Pay attention to the electronics manufacturers with stronger monitoring equipment. I believe that this technology, as long as there is demand and interest, they will break their heads to develop it. If it doesn't work, if necessary, we can use extreme means to kidnap them to the snow country. Naruto saw the first Naruto staring at him and changed the topic. Well, let's start the research. Hashirama looked at it for a long time and didn't understand it, so he went to watch a virtual reality movie. Just now, under Naruto's suggestion, he shared a copy of the practice experience of Mokutan and exchanged it for 500 points. 500 points were enough for him to finish watching 3 movies. When the menu was opened, Hashirama was stunned because 3 movies became 4. The extra one was called Aurora Borealis. At the same time, the 9th Lamas received a call from Haku. I have arrived at the North Pole. There are really colorful lights in the sky like you said. They are really beautiful. The 9th Lamas was stunned and suspiciously asked, You are looking for Naruto? Haku was also stunned. You are not Naruto? Chapter 377. Aurora Borealis was a video that Haku used the system's function to record what he saw and upload it. It was nighttime in the video, the sky was full of stars, and the ground was covered with ice and snow. The dazzling aurora was like a colorful ribbon, spreading out in the deep blue and silver brilliance, outlining an incomparably gorgeous dreamy picture. It was very vast, and it filled the entire field of vision at a glance. At the same time, an unknown song sung by Haku sounded in his ears. It was very pleasant, and it was a female voice with a touch of sadness, like a young girl's yearning. Well, at least Naruto heard it and thought it was a young girl's yearning. Hashirama and Tobirama, who didn't know, must have thought so too. The first Naruto had seen Aurora Borealis, and listened to the emotional song. His eyes stared blankly at a corner, as if he was recalling the beautiful girl he met in his youth. What is the North Pole? What song is this? The first Naruto muttered to himself, but no one left him. Naruto was talking to Haku at this time. Haku established a spiritual link, found Naruto's account, and found 9 tails. Kyubi was quite enthusiastic and told him about White looking for him. Naruto established a spiritual link with Haku. He learned that Haku went to the North Pole and recorded what he saw into a video. Naruto watched it. At night in the North Pole, the brilliant aurora was very beautiful, and so was the song. Although Naruto talked about the aurora, this was the first time that Naruto saw the aurora with his own eyes. Haku said, The North Pole is very beautiful, if only Zabuza-sama could see it. Naruto was slightly stunned, but then he came back to his senses. He understood Haku's meaning. Resurrecting Zabuza was a simple matter for him. But the reward in exchange for labor was even better, right? If he didn't work hard and got it so easily, Naruto might not cherish it. Was this the truth? Bullshit. When did the coal boss care about the life and death of the miners? Well, of course, Naruto wasn't that cruel. Another reason was that more and more people were reincarnating recently. Although he did not care about killing, he still had to control it. At the very least, he had to buy some time. Naruto encouraged him, when you reach 3-star, you can revive Zabuza with your own hands. After encouraging his employees, the coal boss was about to leave. However, he suddenly had an idea. Orochimaru has now guessed that their base is in the snow country. Although they hadn't made any moves yet, that might not be the case in the future. Why not take advantage of this opportunity to build a base in the North Pole? Without the ice escape bloodline limit, not many people in this world could make it to the North Pole alive. For Naruto, who had the ice escape bloodline limit, that place was a natural stronghold. As soon as this thought popped up, Naruto couldn't help but grow in his heart. In addition, Naruto also wanted to go to the North Pole. We'll study it later. Let's go to the North Pole first. The girls who hadn't seen the video uploaded by Bai were all stunned. The first to express his stance was Hashirama. I want to go. Take me with you. Naruto ignored him again. He explained to the others, because of the virtual reality movie, Orochimaru has already guessed that we have a base in the snow country. I didn't care at first. We have a certain geographical advantage in the snow country. It's not difficult to deal with foreign ninjas. But Haku has now arrived at the North Pole. The North Pole is many times colder than the snow country. Without the ice escape bloodline limit, ordinary people can't reach it. Well, I think we can build a base there. By the way, Haku uploaded a short video about the North Pole in the entertainment area. You can take a look. The girls were still in a daze. To be honest, they didn't want to leave the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. They dug out stone by stone here. But after watching Aurora Borealis, I want to go. Gunny's hand was held straight up like a flagpole, swaying back and forth. The order was not easy to distinguish because they raised their hands almost at the same time. It was obvious that women and girls didn't have the slightest resistance to that fairy tale-like beautiful place. As for the home that they were reluctant to leave, their attitude changed from, well, I'll come back to visit often. The girls agreed, and the next step was simple. Naruto reminded them, it's quite cold there. Use chakra to protect yourselves. Then, he turned to Fatty and said, give Haku's identity card the authority to summon Gunny. Fatty accepted the order and started operating with the 5-star authority. Soon, Haku received a system notification. You have a 25 cubic meter system update file. Do you want to update it? Haku didn't know what to do. At this moment, the second system notification sounded, resources downloaded successfully. Beginning update. Naruto then contacted Haku, I've added a summoning authority for you. Later, use this to summon the designated person. Haku was surprised. Summon? How do I do that? Summoning technique. Naruto explained, well, it's a modified version of summoning technique. It's very simple. You just need to activate the array on the card. The system notification sounded in Haku's ears, system update complete. This update adds summoning authority. Haku took out the card. The patterns on the card were more complicated. Haku tapped on the summoning panel that appeared on the operation panel. On the summoning panel, there was only Gunny's image. Note, summoning requires a large amount of chakra. Those who do not have enough chakra would like to use this function, please switch the chakra supply line to the spiritual network. Chakra supply line has been switched to the spiritual undead supply line. Summoning activated. Summoner, please choose the summoning location. Location confirmed. Beginning summoning. A circle of light appeared in front of Haku. At the same time, the points on his system account decreased rapidly. System notification, this summoning uses 20 cubic meters of chakra. Then, There was a boom. A large amount of mist was released from the dense chakra in the circle of light. Then, the liquefied mist turned into small ice crystals. Gunny was summoned to the North Pole. Gunny's first reaction was to shiver. It's so cold. He immediately increased the thickness of Chakra's defense. Naruto's projection flashed with a bright light, and then flashed out. Gunny, activate the sky's eye camera. This was not the snowy mountain. Naruto's projection could not see anything except for Gunny's vision. After all, the perception barrier could not reach the stars in the sky, so he could not see anything. Gunny took out 3 sky's eye cameras. They were the little things developed by Fatty that had bamboo dragonflies attached to their eyes. The sky's eye cameras were successfully activated. The surrounding scenery was successfully captured. Then, through the virtual reality system, the 3-dimensional image appeared in Naruto's eyes. This should not be considered as seeing the North Pole with his own eyes. Naruto admired the beautiful scenery. He could not help but sigh in his heart. If only he and his main body could come here. It was easy to summon his main body, but it was difficult to summon his spirit. Currently, his spirit's range of activity was only between the little flying squirrel and the pufferfish. However, what surprised Naruto even more was that Haku was not alone. He was riding on the back of a big white bear. Is this a polar bear? Naruto pointed at the bear and asked, "Is that your pet?" Haku replied, "You can say so. After a fight with it, this guy has been following me." Looking at the delicate female body of Haku riding on the back of a polar bear, Naruto's mind spun. Is this the North Pole's version of Beauty and the Beast? Then, he had a bold idea. Should he make a virtual reality movie with the North Pole as the backdrop? I should build a base, then research satellites, then research metal armor, and then film a movie when I have nothing to do. Naruto suddenly realized that there were many things he had to do. Chapter 378. The construction of the Arctic base was much simpler than that of the Great Snow Mountain base. Haku changed the shape of the ice according to Naruto's instructions and built a 3-layer spherical ice sheet. The innermost ice sheet covered an area of 10 kilometers, and the outer circle was 1 kilometer apart. This structure was like the double-layered glass of a thermos bottle, so it could effectively isolate the temperature inside the ice sheet from the outside. It had the effect of insulating the ice sheet from the cold. In fact, Naruto originally planned to build a more magnificent ice sheet, but the conversion of chakra into ice by the spiritual network was much less efficient than the conversion of chakra by himself. This project was the limit of what Haku could complete. But it didn't matter. When Naruto's main body had time, he could expand it. The ice sheet with a convex lens structure had a strong light-gathering effect. It was fine at night, but if the sun came out, the inside would be roasted. Naruto asked Gini to use steel release to control the deformation of the steel and added a layer of steel film in the middle. It was not completely sealed, but the top layer was sealed, and the middle was beehive-shaped, with a circle of light transmission. Where there was too much light transmission, a light-blocking steel film was added on the inner or outer layer. Generally, when there was enough sunlight, the diffuse reflection could meet the internal light needs. When the insulating layer was built, the next step was the living area inside. Little Gunny went on the stage again, and the all-metal room was quickly formed with the help of chakra and steel transported from the snow country. The structure of the living area was designed by Naruto, and there were a total of 36 rooms, distributed next to each other in a ring shape. The exits of the rooms were all inward, connected to the circular public area in the middle. The public area had living rooms, temporary laboratories, kitchens, and other public facilities. The main laboratory was excavated downwards, and so far, 4 floors were opened. Basement 1, the laboratory area for metal armor and other machinery. Basement 2, the biological laboratory. Basement 3, the biomass storage room for the Edo Tensei. Basement 4, the core room of the spiritual network. With the convenience of ninjutsu, the entire project was completed in 6 hours. I can't do it. Let me die for a while. Guinea wrapped the last room with a membrane and fell directly into Guinea's arms. At the same time, Bai's body, which could last for another month, was on its last breath. I feel very weak right now. This body can't hold on for much longer. Bai's body had already started to fall off. Pieces of ash that looked like dandruff would fall off from time to time. Naruto comforted him. You've all contributed greatly. Each of you will be rewarded with 1,000 points. Little Guinea rolled her eyes. She was the one who didn't lack points. She quickly protested, I don't want this reward. I want something delicious. I want to eat Sister Xia's pastries. Xia's pastries? Not only did Gurney want to eat it, even Naruto wanted to eat it. She readily agreed and said, once I'm done here, I'll summon your Sister Xia over to play for a few days. Bai was easier to talk to and did not make any requests. However, Naruto also gave her a reward. The Arctic base is very important in the long run. This time, you've completed an S-rank mission. Bai was stunned. Compared to 1,000 points, she wanted the mission score more. This was because there was a requirement for upgrading the identity card. An S-rank mission score meant that she was one step closer to being promoted to 3-star. Once she was promoted to 3-star, she could resurrect Zabuza. Bai was a little excited. As she was excited, the ash-like light spots on her body fell off faster. However, she didn't care. She bowed and said, Thank you very much. Naruto acted like a coal boss. He nodded in satisfaction and said, You deserve it. Naruto notified Big Fatty of Bai's reward. Big Fatty gave Bai a reward with 5-star authority. A system notification sounded in Bai's ears. You've completed the S-rank mission of building the Arctic base. You're rewarded with 1,000 points and an S-rank evaluation. According to the accumulation of scores, you can split the S-rank evaluation into 3 A-rank evaluations. Then, you can split the A-rank evaluation into 50 B-rank evaluations to upgrade the 2-star identity card. Do you want to split the evaluation and upgrade? Bai chose to upgrade. Then, the S-rank evaluation medal in front of Bai's eyes shattered into 3 pieces. In an instant, it became 3 A-rank medals. Then, one of the A-rank medals shattered again. At this time, a system notification sounded in her ears. You have a 10 cubic meter upgrade package waiting to be downloaded. Do you want to download it? The notification said, This download is free. Bai chose yes. The system notification said, Download complete. The upgrade package is beginning to be installed. During the installation process, please ensure that chakra is sufficient. Then, the card that Bai carried with him suddenly heated up. The runes on it seemed to come alive. They twisted and changed their shape, becoming more and more complicated. Bai was no stranger to this scene. A few hours ago, when he installed the summoning function, he also saw this scene in front of him. 3 seconds later, the runes on the card were fixed. The operation panel in front of Bai's eyes changed. Then, it was the beginner's tutorial for the 2-star identity card. The 2-star identity card had 2 more panels than the 1-star identity card. They were chat and world map. However, to Bai, there was only one more world map. After all, the chat authority was unlocked by Naruto not long after Bai went to the Arctic. The world map was opened. The most detailed one was Snow Country. Then, Bai saw that he was walking in a straight line straight to the Arctic. While Bai was familiarizing himself with the new identity card, Naruto received a message from Pharmacist Pocket. Boss, where are you guys? In the laboratory of the Great Snow Mountain, Pharmacist Pocket went all the way from the first floor to the top floor. Fortunately, he had used the Earth Escape technique of the mirror fish to go up directly. Otherwise, this trip down would have been enough to exhaust him. The result of his search was that there was no one. Naruto was stunned and replied, we just moved to the next floor and built a base in the Arctic. The Arctic? Where is it? Pharmacist Pocket obviously had not watched the video update in the entertainment section, nor did he check the world map. Pharmacist Pocket replied with a sad face. Why didn't you tell me? I looked around the base for a long time just now. Naruto was puzzled. You're looking for Gorny and the rest? You can talk to them. Pharmacist Pocket's face darkened. He replied with resentment. Little Gorny lied to me. She said that you guys are on the top floor. Naruto blinked and could not help but laugh out loud. That girl. Why didn't you ask Big Gorny? Pharmacist Pocket's face darkened even more. He replied, Big Gorny told me that she was with Little Gorny. Big Gorny lied too? No way, right? Wait, Big Gorny said that she was with Little Gorny. Naruto looked at Big Gorny. At this moment, Big Gorny was indeed with Little Gorny. Big Gorny did not throw flowers, but her answer was misunderstood. She did not do it on purpose, did she? Did Big Gorny learn bad things too? Naruto asked Pharmacist Pocket. How did you ask her? Pharmacist Pocket hugged himself and squatted in the corner. I asked, are you with Little Gorny? Naruto, that. Why are you looking for them? Pharmacist Pocket replied, their clones need to be compared with the original cells. I'm looking for them to extract the cells. Pharmacist Pocket became evil. But now, I think it's fine if we don't compare. He. Chapter 379. After the general construction of the Arctic base was completed, it was time to build the Arctic Spiritual Network server. The original Great Snow Mountain server continued to operate at the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute, and the new Arctic server was connected to the original server. At this point, the original single database, Star Network, was upgraded to a dual database, a dual star network model. The advantage of this was that the network was more stable. For example, if the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute was destroyed by force majeure, the server of the Arctic base could continue to support the operation of the entire network. This kind of double star network model could continue to be promoted, forming a network topology structure. The network technology of banks was like this, and this model was also called disaster preparedness. It took a total of 3 days to build the Arctic Spiritual Network server. During this time, Deidara and the others finally rushed back to the rain country. Come. Let's take a bath together, Deidara invited the little flying squirrel. Naruto subconsciously wanted to protest. After all, he had been bathing alone. He was alone in Woodleaf. Although his small broken house was simple, it was barely enough to take a bath. Later, he moved to the store manager's house. Not to mention a bathroom, there was a swimming pool, but he was still alone. Thinking of this, Naruto suddenly remembered that when he was in the store manager's house, he didn't see Misharu and Misharu's swimwear in such a big swimming pool. Then, after leaving Woodleaf, in the snow country, he was the only man. Of course, he was still himself. The body reincarnated from Edo Tensei didn't need to take a bath. Then he joined the mercenary guild. He was still a man, and then he took a bath in the hot spring. Before Naruto could say anything, Deidara had already picked up the little flying squirrel and walked into the bathroom together. Naruto suddenly remembered that he was now a little flying squirrel, a furry ball, and there seemed to be nothing to be shy about. Walking into the bathroom, the treatment of the Akatsuki was not bad. The bathroom was very complete. There was a shower, a bath, and everything. Naruto walked to the mirror and looked in the mirror. At this time, he suddenly heard Deidara complaining. Why are you gathering at this time? Deidara had taken off his shirt, but he quickly put it back on. Then Naruto saw Deidara make a seal with one hand, and then his whole body became motionless. Naruto's gaze fell on the Akatsuki ring on Deidara's hand. Obviously, the Akatsuki was holding a meeting through the ring. This thing was very similar to the spiritual network he had created. In other words, it was a spiritual network. I just don't know if I can invade the Akatsuki's spiritual network and then intercept some information. But if you want to enter Akatsuki's spiritual network, you have to obtain the client of Akatsuki's spiritual network. It was the kind of ring that belonged to Akatsuki. Naruto remembered that Orochi seemed to have one. But it's not easy to make a deal, Orochimaru must have asked Naruto to exchange with his other hand. Sasuke. Naruto contacted Sasuke via the spiritual network. What are you doing? Sasuke replied coolly, cultivation. What's up? Naruto didn't beat around the bush and directly stated his purpose. Orochimaru has a ring from Akatsuki, can you help me get it? Sasuke replied coolly, I've never seen a ring on Orochimaru's hand. Naruto explained, he didn't wear it on his hand. Naruto suddenly thought of Kabuto. Since Kabuto had been with Orochimaru for the longest time, he might know. Naruto contacted Kabuto mentally. Do you know where Orochimaru put the ring he obtained after joining Akatsuki? Kabuto replied, You're talking about the ring with the word void written on it, right? When I was with Orochimaru, I put it in Orochimaru's third laboratory, but Orochimaru knows that I'm working for you. He should have transferred the original laboratory. Huh? Well, Naruto admitted that since he told Orochimaru about Kabuto's existence, he had a great advantage. But money couldn't buy, I knew. He was also desperate. It could only be said that it was human nature to make mistakes. Those who didn't make mistakes were gods. His liver hurt. Naruto asked about the cultivation of Gunny's several limbs, and after confirming that the cultivation had been successfully started, he disconnected the connection. That ring has the word void engraved on it. Pay more attention. When the time comes, we can make a fake one. Sasuke didn't ask much, he just said, and didn't talk much. Although Sasuke insisted on staying with Orochimaru, there were signs that he was still on his side. Naruto also asked about Orochimaru's bases, and Sasuke told Naruto a few, but those were not places where Orochimaru's main body often stayed. Sasuke also didn't know where the most important bases were. After hanging up with Sasuke, Naruto hesitated whether to mention the ring to Orochimaru or not. Mentioning it might not work. But as long as he mentioned it, Orochimaru would notice that he needed the ring, and at that time, the possibility of Sasuke helping him steal the ring would be even lower. So, he couldn't mention it, or not in the short term, to give Sasuke some free time. Naruto came back to his senses, and Deidara's side was also over. Deidara stretched and complained, It's so annoying, but fortunately, it's not when I'm in the toilet, Naruto said casually, What instructions did your boss have? Deidara unbuttoned his clothes again. He said that he wants to explore a base of power in the near future, After Deidara took off his clothes one after another, his small body that wasn't very strong but had well-proportioned muscles was exposed. Naruto glanced at him subconsciously and came to a conclusion in his heart. Deidara's assets were not as good as his main body. Then Naruto thought of another thing. The little flying squirrel's body can be multiplied. I don't know if his main body can. If his main body can be multiplied, then a certain fifth limb can be multiplied. The slightly yellow light in the bathroom shone on the little flying squirrel's body, and the snow-white little flying squirrel turned yellow. But it would be difficult for his main body to be multiplied. After all, the little flying squirrel was gifted. As long as he resonated with Chakra's body, he could be multiplied. In theory, he hadn't learned it yet. How about, one day, he took out the Autumn Dao clan's multiplied transformation technique to observe. Cough cough. Naruto stopped in time when his thoughts were about to break through the sky. What organization? Is it powerful? Deidara turned on the nozzle and tested the water temperature. An organization called the Underground Exchange. With that said, Deidara took advantage of the moment when Naruto turned his head to suddenly turn the nozzle around and spray it at Naruto. Naruto and Deidara were very close, and they didn't sense any danger, so they were drenched. Deidara was stunned. Your hair is wet. Why haven't you become thinner? Are you a solid mouse? Naruto's little face was pitch black. Turning his head, chakra resonated with his body. Then, his body rose to 2 meters, and his head almost reached the ceiling. He looked down at Deidara and said, What's wrong with being solid? Do you have a problem? Besides, I'm a flying squirrel, not a mouse. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.